Gardens. Virginia, up here is your clock. You get 9 minutes, and that includes questions. The clock won't start until you're ready. Thank you.
Speak on behalf of the Friends of the Hamilton Gardens and to highlight points from our written submission. The Friends believe that the development of the Hamilton Gardens must continue to enhance the city's identity, prosperity and quality of life. I want to emphasise that its ongoing development has been achieved largely by strong community support over many years. Our Hamilton Gardens are the one and only attraction in our city that brings the world to our door 365 days a year. The Friends acknowledge the Council's continuing commitment to the Garden's ongoing development by the proposals outlined in the current 10-year plan. However, the Friends do not support the additional proposal of a differential charge for entry to the enclosed sector of the Gardens for two important reasons. Firstly, the costs associated with implementation or the actions needed to collect the entry fees, and secondly, the potential loss of over 30 years of valuable goodwill and community support. Right now, you as elected members are being challenged to make prudent and well-considered decisions about the city's finances. Yet the Friends hear that $900,000 is to be spent on expanding the information centre and shop, despite an upgrade just last year. In addition, there are the costs to enable an entry fee to be collected. Think of extra staff, costs of ticketing, assessing visitor status, etc. Where is the evidence or business plan showing that this expenditure will be justified by a significant, worthwhile increase in income from charging, particularly as the Horwath report predicted that visitor numbers would decrease? Despite a wide variety of products tried, the shop does not make a profit, according to the figures obtained from the Gardens Business Development Manager, Tamsin Webb. Worldwide visitors come to Hamilton to see the Gardens, not a shop, so please put the $900,000 towards a garden. For over 30 years, one man's vision has inspired a community to give. Time and talents, cash and kind have been given voluntarily by individuals, families, businesses and community trusts to make Peter Sergal's vision a reality. Since its formation in 1989, the Friends alone have worked hard at building and maintaining relationships within the community, successfully raising over $1 million for the Gardens. Community goodwill and generosity must not be exploited by seeing the garden as a commercial enterprise. As we understand it, $1.8 million of the $5.7 capital expenditure is to be raised by external funding from within the community over 6 years, principally by the efforts of the Hamilton Gardens Development Trust and the Friends. The Friends' willingness, commitment and ability to fundraise will be seriously challenged if charging is introduced. We know that great visitor experiences equal effective and cost-free marketing. Differential charging marginalises sections of our wider community, for example, those on fixed incomes from outside the city boundary, and those who live on the fringes of the city but who consider themselves part of the Hamilton community. Many bring their national and international visitors to the Gardens. We're concerned that entry fees will harm the support for iconic events held in the enclosed sector. For example, the Friends' annual Scarecrow Festival, held appropriately in the kitchen garden. It wouldn't be the same in another location. Similarly, the celebration of Matariki, which the Friends are committed to developing as a significant annual iconic city event, attracting national and international visitors, especially to the dawn service appropriately held in Te Parapara Garden, and also to the Friends' Kite Day. As an aside, are you aware that Hamilton is the only city in New Zealand which does not have a specific budget for Matariki celebrations? So what positive steps can be taken, bearing in mind that our common goal is to enable the continuing development of the Gardens, which in turn benefits our city? Firstly, more time is needed to investigate cost-effective ways to increase revenue from the Gardens, rather than the scenario we have at present, whereby we are debating a proposal to introduce differential charging when there has been little or no consultation with those who are supposed to implement it. It is the Friends volunteers who deal with visitors on a daily basis, and they have much valuable information to share. We ask you to revisit the idea of paid entry only when all the gardens proposed for the enclosed sector are completed and the necessary infrastructure in place, for example, the toilets. In the meantime, we want to encourage giving from the heart. Provide more donation boxes, ones that are larger, more visible, and fun to use, with appropriate signage in several languages. For example, please donate to help keep entry free, or a donation of $5 will keep entry free to these wonderful gardens. For those who don't carry cash, look into installing machines which allow donations via credit and debit cards, or set up a system where donations could be text. Installation of Wi-Fi would help online giving. Now, the Friends want our long-term relationship with the Council to continue. We value the oversight and the accountability that the Council provides and the support from all the garden staff. We're happy to work with the Council staff to address any problems that arise. For example, visitors who do not respect the gardens. This last summer, volunteers were rostered to be in the enclosed sector at weekends and public holidays, and we are aiming to make this a permanent part of the volunteers' responsibilities year-round. Please address parking congestion and its hazards by including, as part of the infrastructure budget, the relocation of car park number 1 as recommended in the Hamilton Gardens long-term plan. Lastly and not least, please adopt the Hamilton Gardens long-term plan as presented by the Council by Dr. Sergel last August, so that his vision can be completed sooner rather than later, and certainly in his lifetime. His knowledge and vision for a world-class garden for our city is a taonga, not to be undervalued. Hamilton will then be home to a museum of gardens like none other in the world. Thank you.
Councillor Mark.
I'm interested in the rhododendron garden car park proposal. Where do the Friends of the Gardens see all the events? Because there are a lot of events that get held in there, pumpkin festivals, the Garden Art Festival, etc. Where would they go in your mind?
You should be aware that there is part of the Governor's lawn which has been already flattened out, and it will replace the.
That's being used for car parks
lawn.
now.
Yes.
Is it the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So will that be as?
So the space on the Governor's lawn will replace the event space that the rhododendron lawn currently provides.
Okay. And the feedback from the people who have events there? Is that
well, you have to remember that this is a proposal by Dr. Sergel, which is contained in his long-term plan, which is yet to be adopted by the Council, but we certainly hope that that will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. Thank you, Virginia, for your submission. The new donation box is a good idea, but the buses that come, do they actually, when they, I know we have quite a few during the day, do they actually come and use the gardens, or they just come and use the toilet?
Well, there's some that we have observed. They arrive very early in the morning, 7:30. They're on their way basically to Rotorua. They use the gardens as a toilet stop and a chance to have a cigarette. Mainly that's the men. We've noticed a lot of the women will then go have a very quick tour around the gardens, but we find that disappointing because they're not really appreciating what the gardens have to offer. They're just seen as a toilet stop. But having said that, we also realise that it would be very difficult to find ways to charge those buses, partly because they come so early in the morning. You'd have to employ somebody to stay there and say, well, give me $50. A lot of the buses are there's no name on them to actually identify the company, which is a big problem, and there's often a language problem as well.
All right. Have you had complaints from
Excuse me, sorry, we have to move on. We've got 24 seconds left and I've got 4 more questions. Councillor Deputy Mayor Martin.
Thank you for your comprehensive submission. The issue around the Hamiltonians who live in Tamaheri, Martang, etc., would the Friends of the Gardens support the Council in promoting a regional facilities fund so that we actually get a regional rate that also contributes to the operation of the gardens so that people from Tamaheri get to pay as well?
It's something that I haven't discussed, Councillor Gallagher, or thought about, but certainly it was something we would think about and would like to discuss further.
Sure, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Dave.
I was going to ask exactly the same question.
Councillor Paula.
Do
Do you not have Wi-Fi there?
We don't have Wi-Fi that would enable people to make donations at the moment. Marilyn and Yeoman and I had a discussion with Tamsin Webb yesterday about this, and she gave us a very detailed explanation as to how it does and how it's really important that certain filters will need to be put on whatever system is adopted, so that people just can't go and sit outside the information centre and download Netflix or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Virginia, and thank you for the Friends of the Gardens for all you do for the city. We
Thank
do
you, Andrew.
appreciate it. Leanne Bills. So I believe you're presenting for the Hamilton East Village Business Association.
Yes, that's right.
You have 9 minutes. The time's at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and start when you're ready. The 9 minutes includes questions.
Thank you. My name's Leanne Bills. I'm speaking today on behalf of the business owners in Hamilton East. Over the last few months, we've seen an increase in antisocial behaviour down in Grey Street. We've had people begging for money. We've seen people blatantly approach people on the street for money, even tapping on car windows while they're at the lights and hanging around money machines. There's also a problem on Sunday mornings, we've heard, when the markets are in progress. These people are often loud and abusive when people don't comply and give them money. They're very intimidating. We've had reports of people entering business, asking for goods, asking for money, and staff and other people from the street have had to come in and try and help these people. We've also had drinking and substance abuse and drug dealing. Often happens down in the Clyde Street part of the village. The police are often called for that. We've had shop and restaurant owners who've had to deal with people who've abused substances and have had to be removed. We've also had cash stolen from businesses, rubbish left in doorways, people setting up illegal donation tables, aggressive window washers, verbal threats to businesses, staff, and antisocial behaviour at the park and the playground. We feel we should be able to run our businesses without the need to deal with these scary and intimidating issues. We don't want our customers to feel like the area is unsafe or that they should give to these people under duress. There are a number of businesses who are staffed by only the owner during the day, and there is increased risk to opportunist behaviour, we feel, and crime when these people are on the street. How can our council help? Our business community have met with City Safe officers and police, city councillors, and the Labourist MP Jamie Strange. We know that there are teams of 2 that patrol the city and 1 that patrols the suburbs and does the call-outs. We understand these people hang around and move easily around the city, often moving from the city to Hamilton East, and we don't think Hamilton East should bear the brunt of the issues that are happening in the city. Can you confirm if there's been a marked increase in call-outs to Hamilton East over the last few months? We feel it's possible that that has happened. We would like to make a strong advocacy to see the council spend increased funding on City Safe in our area. We notice a difference when the City Safe are there patrolling the streets, and convinced that if there was more of a presence, that the behaviour would reduce. And we also feel that a 24-hour liquor ban would alleviate the problems at Clyde Street and Steele Park. We welcome any initiative that would increase City Safe officers in our area to reduce the occurrence of these issues. Thank you.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Leanne, and nice seeing you again after meeting.
Yep.
Did City Safe get back to you with the pamphlets, your Help May Harm campaign?
Yes, we've got the little cards, but we haven't got any posters at the moment, which would make it much more visible and would make more of an impact, I think, if we had bigger posters people could put in their windows. But I've been told they're in progress or that they are underway or something.
I'll follow that up with our guys later when we do a wrap up. Thank you.
Councillor Paula.
Any thought on security cameras for Hamilton East? I know some of the businesses have some individual cameras, but...
Yeah, we haven't looked into it, but I think the businesses are open to it. We're not sure of the issues that surround having security cameras.
I was thinking a similar approach to what's in the central.
Yeah, so you access that footage, or do we send the footage to you, or I don't really know. But yeah, we're open to something like that if that's possible. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Malcolm Barrett. So for GVG Management Trust, Malcolm, you have 9 minutes. The clock will be in the bottom right-hand corner. That includes questions. Start when you're ready.
Okay. This is about the third time I've been back to you guys since 2014. I don't expect you to listen to a great deal. You've never listened in the past. Basically, in 2014, I presented you with a spreadsheet which set out the impact of moving to capital gains with differential in the CBD, would increase the
Excuse me,
rates.
Malcolm, could you move the microphone in front of your mouth, please? Thank you. We're just struggling
That it
here.
would increase the rates by 200% on various properties. So we're back here again. I was here last year saying that the differential rating, if you want to build a new car park, you'd end up paying about half your income that you got from the car park in rates. So just a quick go back to the 2014. At that point, our base rate for KPMG Tower over 7 floors, because it's 1 floor now, Waikato DHB. KPMG Tower, it's just the one I'm using for an example. $41,000. And I look at your proposal, we will be now paying $139,400. That is the measure of success, no doubt. So we just look at it, take a quick run through. So you've got a rate increase of 339% on a floor area basis. That goes from $6.88 to $23.29, allowing for a average rent increase of 1.75%. Over that time, the actual recovery of the owners of those rates over normal inflation is 34 cents. The impact on the capital value, because buildings are valued on their net rental income, but the operating costs are relevant. So in 2014, the rates were $6.88. The Hamilton City Council rates will be $23 odd, $23. On a capitalisation rate, that increase of $16 means that the value of the building drops $1.872 million. So I just rang up Palmerston North and said, what do you do there? Because that's a direct competitor for our office space with the government. Their rates on the same, using the same capital values, comes out at $45,000 or $7.68. By any measure, you guys are not competent. And that's all there is to it. So, and in fact, earlier this year, the MPIE asked us for space because they were bringing back their immigration guys from overseas to New Zealand. We lost them to Palmerston North. All right, we'll now have a quick look at UAGC on commercial property. So I've just used a simple example. GBG operates a business, it's a family business, about 80 square metres, 2 full-time employees, myself, when I get out of bed in the morning, and 1 part-time person. We pay $500. You look at Genesis Energy, and Waikato DHB, which have 12,000 square metres, although their rates are different, they pay $500. So where the hell is the logic between 3 or 4 people and 700 or 800 people? You don't have any, right? Residential, households, the number of households that have 8 to 10, 12 people in them would be minimal, wouldn't distort it at all. How on earth can a council come up with a proposal as ridiculous as that? You don't know what you're talking about. Now, we'll go on to your development levies. As you're aware, we're redeveloping the podium or the farmers' car park and the old farmers' building. under the old levy structure, we would have paid $250,000 in levy fees. They were waived. The question is, we have not developed anything. Half of the money we're spending on there is repairs and maintenance, and the other half is related to some capital works. $1 million of it we're spending on putting the fins on the outside. There is absolutely no commercial reason for us to do it, except that the owners want to own a building that they're proud of. So why the hell do we pay $250,000 to you when we're going to spend $1 million ourselves anyway? The entire commitment of Hamilton City Council to that redevelopment is $3,700 as a chip-in for some street lighting. Nothing else. The rest of it we pay. We have not, if you're going to do a development, define what the use of the purpose, the use of the premises are. What is the function of that building? Is there a change in the character of that building? Is it an reinstatement or is it capital works? Have we increased the floor area? Have we changed the structure of the building anyway? No. We've done nothing. The council hasn't done anything. So when you write something, for God's sake, understand what you're talking about. Unfortunately, you guys operate a bureaucratic business with a monopoly, and it is governed by democracy. By definition, you have a very low level of competence. And that's it. Doesn't matter how you measure it, what you do, sort yourselves out. It's amazing what happens when somebody really has to sort themselves out. And I was farming sheep and beef farming in the 1980s when Roger Douglas wiped every ounce of protection for exporters and protected internal New Zealand. You sorted your business out. You made sure you knew what you were doing, why you were doing it, and when you were doing it. And survived. As an example of bureaucracy, New Zealand Post decided in 1987 to get rid of its rural delivery systems. I was in Parongia, we set up our own, competed. There were 2 vans running around. Unfortunately, I can't compete with you guys. There were 2 vans, and 5 years later, they decided they'd keep them. Today, where are the walking posties? They've gone. Are there RD delivery systems? Yes. Graham Hart bought Carter Holt Harvey, fired 100 guys out of his head office. He's still making money. Fonterra suddenly decided that it had 250 people it didn't need. Don't tell me you've got a $10 million overspend, go back through your business and sort it out. You are there. All you're doing is passing your incompetence onto people that you're responsible for and destroying their income and their wealth. A pensioner couple gets $31,000 a year. I see a person in the paper said his rates are up $1,000. Who the hell do you think you are? Accountancy is a very creative art. Sort yourself out. I've probably describe myself as a grumpy old guy. I've seen that much crap given to me in my life from consultants. You don't even know your own business. And if you come up with proposals as incompetent as that, then none of you should be here. Any questions?
Councillor Gary.
Thank you, Malcolm, for a very stirring presentation. Just a very simple question. Your 2 concerns, rates are too high and development contributions.
No, it's a lack of competence.
Okay,
the rates merely reflect.
I'm going to ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, what do we do to improve the rate situation?
You got to go back through your business model, understand what you're doing, and make it effective.
Okay.
You're just simply not competitive.
I need a more.
Gary, one question, please. We're out of time.
We need something more precise than that. Okay, that's all right. Thanks, Malcolm.
Gary, he did
The
answer.
question,
He said to sort out our own organisation, our own efficiencies. Councillor Paul.
I know what I don't know, and I know when I don't know something, I will find out the answer. Doesn't matter what you do, there's 4 or 5 rules in anything, and you've got to find what they are.
Councillor
And,
Paula.
you know, you just got to find
I've
out.
just got to keep it moving. We're out of time, Malcolm. So,
Yeah.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you, Malcolm. You made some comparison with Palmerston North. They're on 100% capital value by now, aren't they? But you're
Councillor
sa-
Paula, could you speak into your microphone, please?
Oh, sorry.
They're on land rates.
Palmerston North's on land value.
Yeah, they've got
Okay.
land rates. They actually got a toilet tax.
Okay, so what you're saying is that from a point of view of businesses locating there, their floor space rate to locate is far more favourable to someone looking
Oh yeah,
to
a fraction of, yeah.
Okay.
And we have a net lease with MBIE, so they pay that directly. So the occupancy cost is less.
So are you and also with your comment about building improvements, investing capital into existing footprint,
Yeah.
are you suggesting that if this proposal goes ahead, you'll get less developers developing, putting capital improvements on? Because they
Absolutely.
won't be able-
It's just there is no logical, there's no reason for the council to expect the development from a building that's already there. If the square metres is there, you've got to define, if you're going to do, what do you mean by development? What criteria? What is the definition of development?
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Last question, Deputy Mayor.
You property in Palmerston North on land value. If your property was in Tauranga or Auckland, roughly, have you got any interest in other properties where we have councils with charging capital value, which is most of the country except 2 or 3 now?
It doesn't, from the government, from the tenant's point of view,
Yeah.
he doesn't give a stuff how, it's what he gets paid.
Right.
Well, he doesn't care whether it's capital value or not. At land value, what I tried to explain to you, that if you want the CBD to grow, it's got to grow up. Therefore, land value is a lot more effective because therefore the efficiency of your land is better used. You guys didn't want to listen to that.
Well, apart from 3
Hang on,
local
Deputy
authorities...
Mayor, one question, please. You've had your question. Thank you, Malcolm, for your stirring presentation.
Thank you.
We now have CAB. So were you doing a group presentation?
Before you start the clock, just to clarify that there are 3 speakers on behalf of CAB.
That's right.
Myself, on behalf of the board as a whole, Jeanette Holborough and Stephen Drysdale, who are also members of the board, but they are speaking on the same topic, but they're taking slightly different slants on it. So we would ask that the questions be directed to us at the end of our time, and we'll speak consecutively if that's acceptable.
Look, could you bring your group to the table, please, whoever's presenting? Could we set the clock for 17 minutes, please, and could we get the clock started straight away? We've already spent time, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. Your Worship, Mayor King and councillors, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Susan Harwood. I am a volunteer and a member of Hamilton Citizens Advice Bureau Board. I'm presenting this submission on behalf of our organisation as a whole. We, the Board of Citizens Advice Bureau Hamilton, urge the Hamilton City Council to vote no to selling our building at 55 Victoria Street. We believe that retaining the building in council ownership, allowing CAB continued occupation, is vital to the best interests of the Hamilton community. There are several compelling reasons why retaining our space is so important in providing our service. The present location is a humble, small house, is welcoming, and it has a friendly feel for our clients. It presents a pleasant contrast to the anonymous, confusing and often intimidating atmosphere which can be the case with government departments. CAB is an autonomous, independent and approachable service, and we wish to keep it that way. We have the time to help clients with their problems without judgment, and with a huge array of resources and expertise at our disposal. We provide a peaceful space and a listening ear, and our service is free and confidential. The present location is central, visible and easily recognised. It is situated very conveniently to other services that our clients use, such as aged concern in the courts. St Peter's Cathedral provides us with free parking spaces for our volunteers and rooms for our regular board meetings and training sessions. It would be very difficult to find other premises that would provide this level of accessibility and convenience. CAB is a national organisation with 80 bureaux throughout New Zealand. We have been operating in Hamilton for 45 years, and from our present location at 55 Victoria Street for 26 years. We have a proven track record of providing a reputable, reliable and professional service. We are governed by a national set of principles, and we give all our volunteers a program of initial and ongoing training. Every inquiry we receive is logged, enabling our national organisation to collect authentic statistics. These are then used to inform government social policy. No other community service provides what we provide. Our premises play a pivotal role in allowing us to fulfil our national principles, particularly of accessibility. And this principle states that bureaux are accessible to all and free of charge. And the other one is accountability, that bureaux are accountable to the community they serve, to their members, and to CAB New Zealand. Our volunteers are dedicated and highly skilled. The needs of our clients have become a lot more complex over the years, and the input our volunteers provide is extensive. Last year, our team of 60 volunteers donated a combined 10,000 hours of free labour. This equates to $240,000 of value based on the average hourly wage. This needs to be considered when working out the financial benefits from selling the building. Our service also provides our volunteers with mental stimulation and the opportunity for lifelong learning. Our extensive resources and database are constantly updated, and we have established connections for specific clientele. Nationwide, we provide a specialised service in 20 different languages for non-native English speakers. In Hamilton, we provide free legal clinics, specialised consumer advice and advocacy. We're also one of the 30 CABs in New Zealand that offers sessions for migrants, giving them information to ease their resettlement. Hamilton's population has increased and will continue to increase. The funding that Council provides for community services such as CAB needs to keep pace with that growth. All the points I have made are solidly supported by a range of material we have made available to Council, and I have a hard copy and a USB stick here. We have letters of support from our clinic lawyers. We have a petition of 255 signatures from the community. We have our statistics of all the people we help, summarised in a funding booklet. And we have case studies of how Hamilton CAB has helped members of the community. To sum up, the Hamilton CAB at 55 Victoria Street plays a hugely important role in supporting our community. We urge you, the council members, not to sell 55 Victoria Street. And to finally finish, we would like to acknowledge the fact that Council has been extremely supportive over the years in providing CAB Hamilton with the accommodation we have, as well as funding to support our services. Thank you.
You can just stay there, there's a microphone.
May it please the Council. My name is Stephen Drysdale. I am currently a student at the University of Waikato. I am a volunteer at the Citizens Advice Bureau as well as a member of its board. I make this submission on my personal capacity as a private citizen and on my own behalf. Several weeks ago, I sat here and spoke to Council about the difficulties that community organisations are facing in a climate where funding pools, both public and private, are diminishing. Today, I sit here before you once again to advocate on behalf of the Citizens Advice Bureau Hamilton to argue against the proposal in the long-term plan to sell St Peter's Hall and the adjoining Reed Studio offices that would have the effective result of ending the lease arrangement with the CAB Hamilton. In this submission, I argue that the current premises are fit for purpose, have long-standing goodwill in the community. Furthermore, I argue that Council has failed to exercise good governance and observe consultation processes through its last-minute proposal to sell the aforementioned premises at 55 Victoria Street. On my first point of long-standing presence, the Bureau has been located in the adjoining building to St Peter's Hall for 26 years. There is significant goodwill in this building. Many community organisations know where it is located, and the building is easily visible to passers-by. Furthermore, the core of the Bureau's delivery service model is that client interactions are confidential and often anonymous. Therefore, the Bureau would be limited in trying to inform clients of any relocation, especially in such a restricted timeframe with inadequate resources. We don't maintain a database of people we can just send out to let us know where we've been or shifted to. Secondly, the premises are fit for purpose. It is a perfect size for the Bureau's operations, separate offices for administration, private room for interviewing and advising on sensitive matters, and there's sufficient central area for operating our telephone advice service. Furthermore, the building is located in close proximity to some key organisations, namely Aged Concern, Community Waikato, Hamilton Central Police Station, Community Law Waikato, and both district and high courts. Moving on to matters of good governance. Section 3 of the Local Government Act 2002 requires that local government recognise the diversity of New Zealand communities. Subsection D provides for local authorities to play a broad role in meeting the current and future needs of their communities, in particular for local public services. The CAB provides a public service to the citizens of Hamilton, ensuring that they do not suffer through ignorance of their rights. Under the old statutory regime, councils were required to promote the four well-beings, that of social, economic, environmental and cultural well-being of communities. While this has been removed in the current legislation, I would like council to note that an amendment bill is currently before the Select Committee that would serve to reintroduce these principles. Moving on, Section 82 of the Act sets out the principles that a local authority must undertake in relation to any decision. The first principle is that any person who will or may be affected by a decision should be provided by the local authority with reasonable access to relevant information. I would like to bring the following points to Council's attention in this regard. The decision to sell the premises was introduced as a last-minute mayoral proposal. That proposal was made without prior consultation with the Bureau, or at the very least, without the Bureau being informed of its upcoming introduction. The Bureau was made aware of that proposal through indirect means. In an email from Karen Kwok of Hamilton City Council to the Bureau, dated 14 December 2017, and consequently forwarded on to the Board, it was noted that a proposal for the sale was approved on 12 December. This appears to be the first formal correspondence relating to the matter, after it already been publicly available in Council documentation since 1 December 2017. At all stages of this process, the Bureau has been treated as an afterthought, merely as tenants, and while the Bureau is a tenant of Hamilton City Council, it is also a vital component of the overall community infrastructure that serves to enrich in the lives of every citizen living within its limits. I submit that Council reconsider its position in relation to the proposal to sell St Peter's Hall and the adjoining Reed Studio office. Council needs to place a greater emphasis on the long-term value that the Citizens Advice Bureau brings to the city, rather than on the short-term gains to be made from the sale of a Category 2 heritage building. In support of this submission, I would like to bring Council's attention to the following point. The draft proposal indicates that the sale of the premises would generate revenue of around $740,000. Each year, the Bureau invests $240,000 of volunteer time into the city and its community. Over 10 years, the length of the long-term plan, that equates to an investment of at least $2.4 million in our communities. May it please the Council.
Your Worship, Mayor King and councillors, tēnā koutou. This work? I'm Jeanette Holborough, Chairperson of Citizens Advice Bureau in Hamilton. Firstly, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Hamilton City Council for their support in providing a space and money towards the operating costs of Citizens Advice Bureau since it started in Hamilton in 1973. I'm now asking you to vote not to sell Old St Peter's Hall and Reed Studio at 55 Victoria Street. My reasons are, firstly, if you sell the buildings, they're out of your control forever. Hamilton City Council has an existing heritage plan which aims to protect, promote and support the ongoing use of heritage places. The present community group tenants are a sustainable, fit-for-purpose use of these List 2 heritage buildings. The grouping of Old St Peter's Hall, Reed Studio and the George Smith House, with the cathedral in the background on the hill, all contribute to an understanding of the late 19th century pattern of development in this part of Victoria Street and show continuity and the established character of this early settled part of the city. Secondly, the present tenants of the St Peter's Hall and Reed Studio bring a lot of foot traffic into the central city. In the last 2 years, CAB has had 5,000 walk-in clients, and many of them do other business in the CBD at the same time as they visit us. Parents of dancers taking lessons at the Drury Dance Studio do their business in the CBD while their children are at class. Thirdly, Reed Studio is the best location for Citizens Advice Bureau in the central city. In the last 5 years, a branch of Citizens Advice Bureau was situated in a little house, old house in Ken Street in Frankton. And the City Council sold that house and they were moved to next to where the eyesight is now. And then they were moved to Caro Street, and both of those places in the CBD did not work out. They were poor locations for both our clients and for the volunteers working there. Fourthly, if the eyesight and CAB are unable to operate where they do now, then the CBD will be losing 2 community services with face-to-face interactions with people. We cannot be replaced by Google. The client Citizens Advice Bureau Hamilton help often come with complex problems that take more than an hour of volunteers' time per case and often involve a lack of knowledge of literacy, computer and decision-making skills. Google can't fix that. It needs a human touch and customer service. Fifthly, the revenue gained by selling the hall and Reed Studio is peanuts in the total scheme of things. CAB provides a service, as it's been said before, worth $2.4 million over 10 years in monetary terms, with 60 volunteers giving 10,000 free hours of work each year. Many are retired professionals giving back their skills to the community. By not changing Garden Place, you will save $3 million. CAB had a pop-up gazebo there for 4 days recently and found it to be a good open space for lunchtime events. More picnic tables and umbrellas and free Wi-Fi would see increasing numbers of people use the space all day. Tourists using the eyesight would use the facilities. The solution: do not sell Old St Peter's Hall and Reed Studio now. It's a 10-year plan. Work with the tenants and maybe a developer or philanthropist to come up with a plan to preserve the buildings and allow the present tenants to remain, with providing security of tenure so that we can do the work we're supposed to be doing, providing information and educational services which benefit the whole community. Preserve the heritage for future generations. Support what is most important in the world. Hei tangata, hei tangata, hei tangata. It is people, it is people, just people. You're voted in by the people. You're the servants of the people of Hamilton. Please work with the people. Listen and work out win-win solutions. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. There is a letter that's recently arrived from the Anglican Church saying that they are the interested parties, so we'll get that distributed. I'll just ask the Chief Executive to get that distributed to members so that they've got the full information ahead of deliberations. So I think it's important that that letter gets distributed. We're nearly out of time, so very short and sharp, please, with your answers and your questions. Councillor James, we are out of time, so Councillor James, one question.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew, and thank you, Susan, Stephen and Jeanette for all you do, and it's great to see all my difficult customers when I was in the police. If this went against you, have you identified any other suitable premises in Hamilton that would suffice your needs?
Not in the CBD area. No, because we've been spending our energies on dealing with our clients and dealing with this, sorting out a submission. So no, we'll wait and see. I mean, you have to yet vote to decide whether you're going to sell it. And so we weren't going to bother to spend our energy on something that we didn't know what the answer was. We will work with you once you have voted.
Understandable,
But
thank you.
we need a house, we need at least 3 interview rooms, soundproof interview rooms where people can have private conversations. We need a reception area. We need about 7 car parks for all our people that we work there at the time. And that is why where we are now is the best place that we know of. You may know of somewhere else, but we have looked around and we haven't found anyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. We have a paper copy here. We seem to might have mucked up the technology in putting in our online submission. All our documents are here, and
just pass them over to Democracy. They'll distribute them. Thank you. Harvey Brooks. So Harvey's presenting on behalf of the Waikato Regional Economic Development Agency. Welcome, Harvey.
Thank you.
You have 9 minutes. Your time's on the bottom right-hand corner. That includes questions. The clock won't start till you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll hand over to Dallas Fisher, the Chair. Yes, we do.
Good morning, Mayor Andrew. Morning, councillors. Morning, staff. Thanks for having us today. We've got a small presentation which I'm going to run through very quickly so that we can focus on question time, given the timeframes involved. That's just being loaded now. A lot of impetus and momentum going on in our organisation at the moment. Tomorrow,
keep talking, Dallas, but can I just ask Democracy to pause the time?
Looks like it's
keep talking though, just while we talk at the presentation.
I'm happy to. I can do this in 9 minutes, Mayor, I think. Free speech.
Okay.
We've got a board meeting tomorrow of the Establishment Board, which should see the establishment of all the documentation around our legal structure, trust, ownership company, the approval of the draft business plan, communication strategy. So a whole lot of things going on in the organisation. So just to move through our presentation quite quickly, we've established our objectives. They're pretty much as we presented to you last time we spoke. I think that was in Committee Room 1. Our objectives to lift the economic performance of the region, to attract new business, retain investment, grow investment, and talent. Skills shortages are a huge issue around the region. And really, critically, to champion and provide one voice for the region. One of the reasons the region has been missing out on substantial government funding, as we've discussed, is there hasn't been one voice for the region. If I was to give councillors a clean piece of paper and ask you to write the 10 most important economic development projects in the Waikato, most people get to 4. And then run out of puff, or have got no idea that's appalling. We need a focused region, speaking with one voice. We need to identify these projects. We need to, we're not going to get full agreement, but we need to get a consensus on them, and we need to then push forward to government with one voice to gain the key funding that's available. There's no question that the Provincial Growth Fund, I personally think it's a fantastic initiative. I'm not sure how many noughts are in $1 billion. There's quite a few. And yes, there's been certain grants given out already, but they've been in the $5 to $10 million range. And there's no question that that fund's going to need good projects put in front of it to apply for money. At the moment, we don't have a focused list to put in front of government. We've got a fairly major initiative coming up, which I'll talk about in a minute to address that. So if you recall back when we last spoke, we're forming a hub and spoke sort of strategy based around the Innovation Park, which is the red dot in the middle of that map of the Waikato, with the green dots being where we will provide services to the region. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a focus. We're starting off really from scratch. We've had very significant buy-in from all the local government organisations. All of the councils in the region have got our funding requests in their LTP. We haven't had anyone opt out, which is quite a significant plus. If you look at a number of regional initiatives around the place, there's always one or two of the punters that don't seem to want to be involved, but on this subject, people get it, and 100% of local government and the regional council are committed. One of the things we're trying to propose, and we're getting real traction with this, is that we're not there to eat the local people's lunch. All councils have got their own economic development people. We're trying to supplement them, trying to help them. There's a lot of activity, and a number of them simply aren't coping with the process. Next slide, please. I'm going to jump this one, and I'm going to go straight to this. In late August, we will hold a Waikato Economic Development Summit. This summit will bring together 250 people from around the whole region. We reviewed the invite list yesterday. It's both geographically representative of the region and also representative of various industry groups and local government and other industry organisations. The objective of this summit is to fill that piece of paper in. Get the top 30 projects, prioritise them. What are the top 5? What are the top 10? What are the things we're going to do in 3 years? What are the things we're going to do in 10 years? This is a vital piece of work. We're investing substantial money in this summit. It's self-funding. We've had a number of people come to sponsor it, a number of grants from specific organisations. It's not included in the core operating budget, so we've put this together quite quickly in terms of the funding model, and I guess people get it. They get that this is important, so the money's flowing to make it happen. I'm going to stop there because I've got 4 minutes and 1 second left, even with my extra free time, Gary, to allow councillors to ask questions, because I think it's pretty important that we get a dialogue going.
Councillor Martin.
Yes, obviously congratulations on the work you do, but this may be outside the brief, but it's relevant for economic development. We've had some, as you know, we're looking at quickening the transition to capital value. From an economic development point of view, do you have, or does the group have some views on at least, I guess, having at least a consistent rating system across the region?
Excuse me, Martin, I really think it's so far off spec that it wasn't what they've submitted on.
I apologise. I was so inspired by a previous submission just a couple of minutes ago that I wanted to ask people with profound knowledge of economic development, but I'll be in your hands, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Mayor for that. Yes.
Councillor Robb.
question, Dallas. Waikato means business. I noticed on an earlier slide you had. Is the intention that this group, that your group will absorb that group and that?
Effectively, yes. We've transitioned to an establishment board which has taken over all the current projects that Waikato Means Business is operating.
Yep.
The biggest single one at the moment is the South Waikato Economic Action Plan, which is a very significant and important piece of work.
Yep.
We've taken over the funding streams that we've already got for Waikato Means Business, and that we're currently debating name and stuff like that. We'll have a bit more clarity on that tomorrow, but yeah, it's effectively just transitioned.
And one more question. 250 people assembling to come up with 30 priorities. Do you think that'll work? You know, I'm not suggesting it should be much smaller, but it's a big group, isn't it, to try and...
It's a 2-day commitment.
Yep.
We've engaged one of New Zealand's leading facilitators in this area. He's done a lot of work for major strategic plans commercially and in government, a guy called Gareth Parry from Wellington. We looked at the market. The facilitator and the process that we use is vital. We need to get a wide input. This is not 10 people sitting in a black room.
Yep, I understand
it needs
that.
a wide input.
Yep,
We think we've got a process that'll deliver.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Paula.
Just around what the relief sought on your submission, so you're seeking 140,000 for 3 years, preferably, from Hamilton City Council.
Per year.
Pardon?
Per year.
Per year, sorry, yeah, per year for 3 years. And so is that based on a proportionate...
Population based.
It's all based on population?
Yeah.
Okay, and does that replace any of the funding going into Waikato, or is it part of the same? It's a diversion of...
Essentially, did we have a slide on that, Harvey?
Got a simple slide.
Yeah, there it is there. Local government, 370, regional council, 350, and the 370 is split amongst all of the councils on a population pro rata basis.
All the Waikato councils? The
ones
not
Taupo.
Yeah, not the ones in the other economic areas, just the ones in this.
Correct.
Right, okay, thank you.
Business 465, which we're getting real traction on at the moment, and then various other trusts.
Great.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Dallas, and I applaud the initiative. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, and I might be wrong on this, but this currently falls outside of our 10-year plan in terms of budgets and funding. So are you looking to get this on the table now? Have we got, how much funding have we got?
140.
Okay, so this is just a reaffirmation of something that we've already flagged?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks very much, gentlemen.
4 seconds to spare, Mayor.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll leave an annual report with your committee secretary for councillors if they want.
Going into debit now.
Yeah, I know.
I think Hamilton is the capital of the Waikato, understands that if our region prospers, we prosper. So we very, just thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Catherine Lieutenant, I apologise if I got your name wrong. Yes, pronunciation. So, yeah, it's okay. Relax. We won't start the clock till you're organised.
Cool.
So,
So, the administrator, they got the PowerPoint?
so I'll let you.
Thank you. All right. I thought you might have remote control.
So you have 4 minutes once you're organised. So
4 minutes? We thought we had 10.
who are you representing?
We're representing Sink or Swim.
Sorry, I've got you down here as an individual submitter.
No.
So
We're representing Sink or Swim, and we
We're not an individual submission, we're a group submission. So do we have 10 minutes? Is that correct?
No, you have 9 minutes. The time's on the bottom right-hand corner of
Thank
the
you.
board. The clock won't start until you're ready, and the 9 minutes includes questions.
Thank you. Are we ready? Yeah. Good morning, Your Worship and councillors. My name's Susan Woodhouse. I'm a conservation lawyer, and this is Catherine Luketina, who's an environmental scientist, and we're representing the group Sink or Swim, which has been around for quite some years. In fact, it was back in 2012 we submitted on the same issue, which is the continued or a revitalisation of the inner city environment by resurrecting the municipal pools. Now, if we go to a summary of our submission, this is a historic pool. Should be redeveloped as a 25-metre outdoor recreational learn-to-swim facility because it is nearby schools, residents and workers. And we believe that it would be the best option for getting further pool space in Hamilton, and it fits with option 1 of challenge for the funding to come from Hamilton Garden Developments and Garden Place redevelopment. That would be where we think the money should come from, along with the targeted rate. The reason is that there's a shortage of lanes in Hamilton for swimmers currently. It's ongoing, and the site is ideally located. It's served people for almost 100 years or more in Hamilton, and it was prematurely closed, and the redevelopment of that site as a new swimming complex fits with the aims of the river plan. We have got a history of the pool there, just to mark that it has been there for a long time and served the public of New Zealand, and it could be revitalised. The next slide. We, in the past, collected over 2,500 signatures on submissions for the 2012 LTP that people wanted this pool to remain in public use for Hamiltonians and the surrounding population. We had a public protest. We marked its 100 years at the time. Now, the typical patronage you'll see in this next slide, back in 2008, is quite self-evident by that notice board there that used to sit outside the pool. That population will have grown and it will continue to grow. We are a youth city, we are an inner city or inland city, and the climate is changing and outdoor pools are going to become more and more necessary in a hotter climate. And I only have to refer to this summer for you to understand what I'm talking about. If we go to the next slide, we believe that the total cost for rebuilding this pool as an outdoor facility, which gets away from a lot of the costs of an indoor facility, would be approximately nearly 5 million. That would include the demolition costs that have been set aside in your plan to get rid of it, which is $670,000. I understand that may have ballooned into $1 million. So there's a spend there that you wouldn't have to do, and it could be applied to revitalising this pool. The sources of money that you have allocated in the plan so far are set out there on that slide. We suggest that the Garden Place makeover, from everybody that we have spoken to and obviously in the media, is a spend that you don't want to be wasting your money on. Nobody's interested in spending more money on Garden Place. Rather, use that 3.2 for redeveloping this pool. Add your $0.67 million to that, and a targeted rate of $1 per month or 25 cents a week per household, which you're doing for the gardens. It's the perfect way to use money. It ensures that it isn't piped off to another wish list project. And the benefits are, as I've said, we've got climate change. We need recreational spaces that are family friendly. It could include an amphitheatre for outdoor performances. It could be a standout location with a bit of creativity. It ticks all the boxes for vibrancy in your inner city and connecting to the river space, and it connects with the river objectives that you've already looked at ad nauseum. We need a creative solution for this project. It could be a success, and it could be even more successful than the Victoria on the Park River, if you can imagine connecting that pool to your green space, to your river, to the location where families can come and enjoy the outdoors plus swim, learn to swim, get exercise, enjoy health, enjoy the outdoors. The locations there are many benefits for this solution over others. It's in the heart of the city. It fits with the future of wanting to increase the density of inner city living. It's close to the police where they do a lot of training. We've got hotels that have no pools, and I've just been in Sydney and enjoyed the Sofitel 25-metre pool. We want pools for people to enjoy and relax when they're visiting our city. It's great for elite sportsmen. The All Blacks preferred using that pool. It's on the orbiter route. It's great for triathletes who can go for their run straight after a swim. It ticks your boxes and it meets the council's objectives. Next slide, please. It is the most cost-effective thing you can do in terms of recreating pool space in the city. It is what people want. It's in the right place. It's got the heritage. It'll help with the city revitalisation, and it includes healthy population objectives, plus it fits with your river plan. Look for a partner to do this with, and I believe that you will have a winning formula, and people will look back and say, what great insight you had if you recreate that pool. It's not hard to do. But don't think of it having to be an indoor facility. That is a mistake. We need an outdoor pool and tepid. And there are many environmental alternatives to heating this pool, so it can be cost effective. Look for a partner. That's what we suggest you do. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
One or two quick questions, but I'll see if I can get away with it. First one, where is this passion come from? Why are you so determined?
Because I've swum that pool since I was probably 6 years old, and I now belong to Fastlane and I swim there every day, and I am associated with a lot of swimmers and people who are involved in swimming, and every single one of us, when we first thought we were losing the pool, we're just incensed because it is such a fantastic place to be, and we don't have an inner city pool handy for workers. We've got partnership pools. They are good to a degree, but they do not serve the general public of this city. And why not? It's there. It's on an endowment piece of land. It's the perfect use for it. It just requires a little money. And the council neglected it, and it fell into disrepair.
Another quick one, because I'm going to get cut off. Have you talked to...
Stop. You've had your question. Councillor Siggy.
Talk to us later.
I love that. You said it was closed prematurely. Why? What was the reason for that?
Well, my timing won't give you enough time to answer that question, but I can certainly meet with you and talk to you about it. Basically, it was neglected by the council, the maintenance wasn't done, and then it was left to fall apart, and therefore they decided it was in the too hard basket, and they had not channelled the money that was supposed to be spent on maintenance on the pool, and therefore it closed.
Thank you.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you. Do the costs that you've shared on that slide include the, now that it's known as a TOMO, since it's been emptied, a TOMO has arrived? Does it include the, does it? Catherine, you'd know more about this, being a geologist and all.
Yes, there is no hard evidence that there is a TOMO. The pool has been closed now for 6 years, and this imminent danger of a TOMO has not occurred. There's been no subsidence. The work that was commissioned to determine whether there was a TOMO or not was not the work that most people would have undertaken to find that out. Basically, a plumber was engaged to do a dye test on the pool and determine where there was a leak. That's not the same as determining where there's a TOMO. For example, the standard technique would be ground penetrating radar, which was not used at all. So there is no evidence, no hard evidence of a TOMO. However, the pool itself needs to be rebuilt, and that would determine whether there's a TOMO or not.
It would be groundwork.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quickly, please, Vera Tom.
Yeah, very quickly on behalf of Ryan, have you talked to Momentum at all? Momentum Foundation in regards to funding and potential?
I think we need to make it clear this is a city-owned pool, and we have not engaged with Momentum recently because essentially without the council's buy-in to this, it's a waste of time.
Thank you.
We've had a look very closely at those options. We need a partner, or you need a partner, to recreate this pool for the city. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah, my understanding is that an infrared report was commissioned and done on the pool.
We've never seen it.
Okay, we'll get that distributed. So there is a report there that has done the infrared soundings, so we'll get that.
It may not be fatal to a redevelopment, though.
No, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get that through democracy distributed to your group, so you've got that report.
That would be appreciated. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tim Babbage. So just take a seat up the front here. Who's Tim?
I'm Tim.
Okay, and...
Finlay.
Sorry?
Finlay. Babbage.
Finlay, okay.
Yeah. So we're actually here as a group under Northern United Sports Club.
Okay, so you have 9 minutes. The clock will be on the bottom right-hand corner. That includes questions. And do you have a presentation?
No, we're just speaking to it. We've already presented already, but yeah, just an oral presentation.
Okay, welcome Tim, welcome Finlay. Just
Thank
start
you.
when you're ready.
Your Worship, councillors and council staff, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Tim Babbage. I am the President of Northern United Sports Club.
My name is Finlay.
You're right.
Do you have to push that button?
There we go. My name is Finlay Babbage and I'm 13 years old. I've been playing football and futsal for Northern United for 9 years. I am a student of Rototuna Junior High School and now play for the school supported by Northern United.
So Northern United Sports Club is one of the largest sports clubs in the Waikato, with more than 1,000 men, women and children playing football, netball and futsal, and thousands more, particularly parents, supporting, administering and officiating the club's players. Our vision is to create a lifelong love of sport for all ages. We encourage and develop community involvement in sport at all levels through a strong, sustainable and family-friendly club that meets the needs of its members and supporters. Northern United's club members and supporters primarily reside in the north of Hamilton City, in the suburbs of Rototuna, Flagstaff, Chartwell, Puketi and Te Rapa.
Northern United runs all junior football for primary schools in the north of Hamilton and partners with Rototuna High Schools to deliver high school football to ensure transitions and pathways for young players.
Northern United has a particular interest in field development, field maintenance and indoor recreation centre development, as well as maintenance. The club currently has no clubroom space and is keen to work with others to develop an opportunity through partnerships, shared spaces and shared fundraising. Northern United is particularly supportive of the following council projects. Number 1, Rototuna Sports Park offers the city an interesting opportunity to see further partnerships in action. Northern United already partner with Rototuna High Schools and we appreciate the way that the schools see their location as a community asset as much as a school asset. Northern United encourages the Council and Rototuna High Schools to continue the existing partnering relationship within the Peak Recreation Centre by extending the trust to also include the Rototuna Sports Park. This would see the sports park developed alongside the schools and the recreation centre to provide complementary facilities that meet the needs of the wider community. Northern United have had contact with Council over the design of the sports park and we'd be very keen to extend this relationship further. Number 2, while Northern United Sports Club is more than 1,000 members strong plus supporters, we have no clubroom space and rely on the school spaces for musters, my living room for committee meetings and our major sponsors for senior club gatherings. Northern United is interested in developing a shared model with Council and other clubs or organisations to develop clubrooms on the sports park site. Northern United is supportive of the Rototuna Community Hub. However, we are concerned that there will not be space for large organisations such as our club or other sporting organisations, and the hub is situated away from playing surfaces. Northern United is a major user of the Peak Indoor Recreation Centre for both futsal and netball. The facility has transformed Northern United's ability to offer training opportunities for our members. We thank the foresight of the Council, the Ministry of Education and Rototuna High Schools in the way that this facility has come together, and are very pleased with the way that the facility is run and the access that Northern United as a local community sports organisation has secured. We know that our futsal and netball numbers are growing, and another indoor facility, particularly on the eastern side of the river, will give the club further opportunities into the future. There is a shortage of futsal competition space at the intermediate and high school levels, so it will be helpful to be able to consolidate competition locations.
We know that it rains in the Waikato, and when it rains, it can be very heavy. What?
Carry on, you're doing well.
Keep going, Finlay, you're going well.
It can be very heavy. The last few years have been seen significant training and competition time lost due to bad weather, as some council fields have not been up to having training and game times within the same week if it has been raining. We simply must get our training and playing fields up to standard with appropriate drainage systems, and consider what we can do to future-proof and maintain these fields. We also need another high-level turf surface in Hamilton for multi-use or specific sport use. Artificial turfs create more opportunities for use even when the weather sees other playing fields closed. It is also important that our emerging talent understand the differences of playing on turf surfaces when given we need to do that in other New Zealand cities when playing at tournaments.
Thank you for listening. We're happy to take your questions.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. Thank you, Tim and Finn, is it? Thank you for your submission. I'm not sure where you play your home football now, but I'm pretty sure a few years ago, were you in like partnership with the Suburbs Sports Club? Used to.
No, Suburbs has always been separate. That's been so it came from a couple of different original football clubs. So Hamilton North, and Rototuna Football Club were the two that merged together a few years ago. So we've always been in football and never been in partnership with Suburbs.
Right, okay, thank you.
Councillor Siggy.
Thank you so much, Tim and Finlay. Thank you for this awesome submission. And it does rain a lot in Hamilton sometimes, that's true. You were talking about the hub and Rototuna hub, and it's too far away from the field. I can't remember now. We had a look at the plan, but I can't remember. Is it possible to get the hub closer to the field, or really? I just see Lance nodding there. Whether that might be a possibility for you to integrate that. Would that be good for you?
Anything's possible in that, and as long as it's going to be a large enough facility to actually work for people.
Yeah.
That's the challenging thing. So
and you would like to work with the council
absolutely,
on that?
Yeah. So there's no intent. So our angle on all of this is no intent to control anything. No intent to be the only members that are looking at it. We like to work in partnership with anyone, and that's exactly why we do things as we do with the high school at the moment, how we've been working with council, and so we're open to any of that.
Thank you.
As well as other clubs as well, I should have mentioned. So.
Councillor Mark.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Finlay. Are you aware, because we've had quite a few submissions from different sports groups about the need for artificial turf and the likes. Are you aware of other sports, for example, futsal, etc., up your neck of the woods that would be interested in joining you guys?
Yeah, so futsal, we provide a lot of futsal, but the futsal's mostly...
Sorry, lacrosse I was thinking of, sorry.
Lacrosse, okay. Yeah. We're aware of lacrosse up there, so it's,
excuse me, Mark, where's this going?
I'm just,
they
were talking about
lacrosse.
cooperation with other groups, and Tim was mentioning partnerships there before.
Yep.
I was wondering if they had talked about partnerships with other people. So is that too wide, is it?
That's the General Manager's job through his department to coordinate the different clubs and the different times they play on fields. It's not for a different group to allocate or share without it going through the General Manager. So
Okay.
it's just a little bit off. It's a little bit off topic, Mark.
Yep, no, good as wood. Okay.
Councillor Dave.
Following on from Siggy's point before, were you aware that the final position of the Rototuna hub within that general sort of shopping area on one end of the park hasn't been worked out yet? So
Yes.
there's still room to
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course, that, as we talked about, it's about location, but also size and opportunity and what's available for different people. So, and from our point of view, we're not expecting to work with council where council delivers everything. Our angle is to say, hey, what can we do to work together on this? There'll be funding from council, but then we'll also need to work on getting funding from external sources, both from inside the club, from our membership, but also from partners outside, from funding organisations and so on, which is something we specialise in as well.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Tim and Finlay, just keep stepping up to opportunities. You'll be, if you take the opportunities as they come when you're ready, you just naturally step into leadership. So well done on where you're heading. And Margaret Allen. Margaret Allen, next group down.
I'm a bit early, yes.
So, Margaret, are you here as an individual?
Yes.
Okay, you have 4 minutes. The clock's on the bottom right-hand corner, so you can see it ticking down, and that includes questions. So start when you're ready.
Right. I didn't want to come to speak at first because I thought it won't make any difference, and why bother? But I decided as ratepayers, it's our money you are proposing to spend. I don't have expertise about roading costs or some of the other things, but the challenge to me is pretty obvious. I'm actually really disappointed about the choice of the 9 projects, especially if the money has to be put us into debt. Nothing on this list is essential. Some things like Gardens Place and Hamilton Gardens are ridiculous options in my opinion. It takes more than 2 hours now to walk round the gardens already, which is plenty of time for tourists or for all of us to go round. And I think we have enough indoor recreation facilities and playgrounds. In fact, the problem I've had at the moment is that if you go to the lake, you'll find that it's not working. There's 2 out of the 3 options. It was a fabulous facility, but they're broken, and they've been broken for weeks. Like, if I want to buy a new car, I wouldn't spend 50,000 when 20,000 is all that's necessary. When there are people struggling to pay rates and rents, rising petrol and fuel prices, why can't the council lead the way by cutting back where it can, rather than thinking 70.7 million is not a problem for ordinary Hamiltonians to pay? I would hate to think that anyone would dare to say that the annual cost is only 155 a year. Let me tell you that it would feed some families for a month. It would pay visits to the doctors. That money is a lot to people who are on fixed incomes and on low incomes. I found it strange not to include the sports drainage improvements on the list, because I would have thought that it would be part of the maintenance, as footballers, etc., don't want to be swimming on their pitches that they presumably have rented from you. I agree with maintaining our city, but as we have the highest child poverty rate ever in New Zealand, I think it's time, and the time is now, to keep costs to minimum. If this is the best you can do with Challenge 4, how good have you been on the other challenges in spending other people's money? And if I had time to get a petition, I think I would have got a petition, because I think you've been spending or are proposing to spend on things that are not necessary.
We'll go into questions. Councillor Siggy.
Margaret, I'm really glad you came actually and submitted to us. It's always good to hear. Look, you just said at the start, you said something at the lake was broken. Yes. I just didn't get that. What were you referring to?
I agree that whoever put that in the lake, it's a fabulous child's playground.
Yeah.
And on the closer to the roadside, and it's got these wonderful water facilities. I've seen 200 or 300 children there, and they're all playing wonderfully, but they're broken, and they've been broken for weeks, and they've had the tape round them and chained up, so nothing's happening to it.
Okay.
But even on the other side, things are broken and not being replaced. So I'm not against maintaining stuff and keeping things safe and organised, but to just let things, fall into disrepairs, to me, and then think I'm going to make something else, another one, when you can't keep the upkeep of the others, I think's not right.
Great point. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. That's, there's one more question from the Deputy Mayor.
Rates rebate, would you support council in pushing central government to improve the rates rebate scheme for lower income families and people?
Yes, I gather because some people apparently, if you've got so much money in the bank, you can't get your rates rebate. I think it's $10,000 in the bank.
No, I think it's based on income. Sorry, but yeah. Okay, sorry, Dave.
Yeah, there's a... No, you don't get the full amount if you've got a certain... And really, if you own your own home these days, I mean, have you looked into how much it costs to have the roof replaced? You're talking $14,000, $15,000. So you've got to have a certain amount in your bank to allow you to keep your own home and keep it you know, up to scratch. Right.
Lovely, thank you very much for your donation.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can just look it up. The next presenter is Anita Goodman, who is just about to walk through the door. Hi, Anita. That's not Anita.
Finance staff member, rate staff member explain exactly how the two different rates rebate policies work, the government and ours.
Yes, so...
Not now, but some basic info on that.
So if the Chief Executive could arrange for someone to do that, we're going to possibly even just now, if not, later in the day. Welcome, Anita. You have 4 minutes. The clock's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and that includes questions. Start when you're ready.
Sorry, I just wasn't realised I was coming on early, sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to share my views, especially to those councillors who generously met with me leading to submissions. For those who don't know me, I'm a long-term Hamilton resident and for many years have paid rates on multiple properties here. I have recently turned my full-time attention to volunteering and becoming more involved with our community. I'm still learning about the inner workings of our city council, and I do not yet have the knowledge to talk on many of the issues, but I will say this. While we are being told the city is losing $10 million per year and our rates are going up, I do not support many of the unnecessary proposed community infrastructure projects, especially the Central City Park. I can support a rates increase if the funds are going in the right places and are needed. I would love to see more people using bicycles to commute around our city. It would be great to see the section of River Path between Bryce and London Streets finally reopened, and I want to see many of the vacant lots in our existing city pushed to be used as housing or business spaces, rather than illegal rubbish dumping sites. The item I do have more knowledge on is the Hamilton Gardens. I do not support the proposed entry fee to the enclosed gardens at Hamilton Gardens to those over the age of 18 years old and living outside our city boundaries. The conditions of entry are a mouthful and should have been the first sign this is not a good idea. I can talk for hours on this, but I only have 2 minutes left. The financial benefit from applying the fee is optimistic at best, and if it is really needed, it can be obtained through other means as detailed in my submission. My preference is the gardens expand at a slower rate, and rather than converting the rhododendron lawn into asphalt, literally paving paradise to put up a parking lot, that the top car park at Gate 2 and the old netball courts are utilised for parking with better signage indicating parking availability. Facilities, features, cleanliness, staffing and education need improvements if the gardens are to be compared to other gardens who apply an entry fee. Again, this is detailed in my written submission. My submission pointed out many things you already know and reiterates that applying a fee has more negative than positive outcomes for the gardens, residents, businesses, those that support Hamilton and Hamilton's reputation. You also read my long list of garden credentials and the myriad of disadvantages against only 2 advantages if this fee is implemented. Hamilton residents utilise free attractions in many parts of our country and countries around the world. The gardens are the only free attraction to entice visitors here. The gardens make me proud to be from Hamilton. Thousands of people donated millions of dollars and an untold number of volunteer hours to make the gardens what they are today. I am one of those volunteers. I do this to keep the gardens free, to keep something special in a city that does not have much offer to visitors, let alone keep visitors here and keep visitors coming. The people who donate their time and money do this so the gardens can be enjoyed by all. If any councillors still support this fee, I urge you to please read my submission again. The fact the fee had support in December has me very concerned about all decision making in regards to the 10-year plan and council in general. Though some of you are repeat councillors and will likely gain the needed votes to retain your positions next year, please remember the decisions you make in your short-term position as a Hamilton City Councillor have a long-term effect on our city and the residents that call Hamilton home and are proud to do so. Is the small financial benefit this entry fee may generate really worth the damage to our economy and Hamilton's spirit? For me, the numbers don't stack up. Thank you.
It's time for one question, Councillor Siggy.
And I love your insight and truthful insight. Look, you talked at the start about empty lots in town, and I just wondered, have you got any ideas how we can make them people build on it?
I'm not, yeah, that's why you guys are here.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Yeah, for example, there's one quite close to where I live on Peach Grove Road. I did actually see some City Council vehicles there a couple of days ago investigating turning it into housing, but we've lived in our area for 6 years now, and I know it was vacant for long before then, so, that's what you guys are here to help speed things along and make our city beautiful.
Okay, I want to talk to you later about something. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission.
Thank you.
Alan Julian. So this, members, is in the rating, under your rating file. Yes, you're welcome to sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome. You have 4 minutes to speak. The clock is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and that includes questions, and the clock won't start until you're ready.
I'll be brief.
Thank you.
Good morning. As I say, I'm Alan Julian. I live at 53A Ryburn Road, which is part of the Ryburn Road Percival enclave, which some of you may be familiar with through other issues we've dealt with. Our current rates will increase from $1,715 to $53 under the proposal to go up to $3,005, which we see as quite a substantial increase for us. And I suspect other residents in our enclave will be similarly affected. There's about 30 properties there that will be presumably dealt the same increase. What we have as services, we have trickle feed water supply, which we do pay a fee of $320 a year to have access to the water, and in addition we pay for the water we use. So that is an extra cost on us for having that. We also have to occasionally have our water tank cleaned because we're right next to where they're constructing the expressway, and we have dust and that coming from there. So that's another cost to us, which is not factored into this consideration. We have a own septic tank service, in which we have to pay for yearly, which is another $290 a year to have that serviced. And there are other minor things that we do not receive in our area that are covered by rates, such as footpaths, cycleways, street sweeping, street lights, landscaping, weeding, and buses. So there are a number of services that are not available to us in this enclave. So we think this is quite a large increase that we're faced, and basically what are we getting in return for that increased rates? That's basically it. You're on.
Thank you. Councillor Mark.
Thank you. Sorry, can you just clear that up for me again? So you don't get reticulated water, you don't get street services, you don't
We've got trickle feed water.
You've got trickle feed,
yes.
Yeah. And what else don't you get? You don't get...
footpaths, cycleways,
right.
Street sweeping, street lights, landscaping.
Your sewage though?
No, septic tank.
You're on septic tank?
It just said we have to pay to have serviced as well.
Right. And rubbish collection? You do?
We do have rubbish collection,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, sorry. Is that another? No.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, we'll now break until 11:20 for morning tea. Maria Aton. Hi Maria, how are you? Maria, are you presenting as an individual?
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you.
That includes questions.
Thank you.
The clock is on the bottom right-hand corner.
Thank
if you
you.
just want to keep an eye on how you're going. And the clock won't start until you're ready.
Okay, thank you. My name is Maria Eaton. Good morning. Nice to see you all here today, and thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I know there's a lot of people in Hamilton who really would like the opportunity to speak, and so I'm taking that. The main thrust of my argument is that cars are dangerous. Cars are dangerous on our roads. They're very intimidating, and it makes it hard for us to get around on using other means of transport. People are buying larger cars, that people are attracted to larger cars to make themselves feel safe, to make themselves feel less vulnerable. So essentially every single person wants to feel safer. Unfortunately, the effect of buying bigger cars is that it makes people using other transport more vulnerable and makes us feel more vulnerable. I would really like it if half the roads in the world were shut down and dedicated to other forms of transport for that reason, so that it gets people out of vehicles and onto the streets on foot or on cycles. I'm not necessarily pro-cycle. Don't want to get people onto cycles. I want to get people off cars. We are addicted to cars, and in Hamilton we have the worst addiction. We really do. So the other thing I'd like to say is that essentially cars are a threat to children. There is very little done about texting and driving. Texting and driving is a very, very serious issue. I see it all the time. I count about 10 people, every time I go on the road, I count 10 people texting and driving. Very, very lethal to children on bikes, walking, or on bikes. And we can't do very much about it. There's very little you can do about it. It's hard for police to control that. With shutting, I understand that we're not going to get to shut down half the roads in the world and dedicate them to cycles. That's not going to happen. But I would like it if we started with one road in Hamilton. I would like that to be a road that went from the CBD out in some way. If you imagine the CBD being the centre of a bicycle wheel, and then you imagine all the roads being spokes, then the end game would be having every alternate spoke being a road and every other spoke being a path. And yeah, I would also like to see speed limits in the world just brought down, the whole world, because it's just too unsafe. So I'll take questions.
Councillor Paula. Sorry. Councillor C. I'll come back to you, Paula.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was great. I love your enthusiasm. Look, is it cars or is it drivers that you think are the problem?
No, cars.
Okay, not the drivers.
Cars are two tonnes of metal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Maria, for your submission. If you shut down a main road like you're asking for,
yep.
Would that include service vehicles as well as trucks and everything they have to deliver?
So, yeah, if you want to cut down a road, you're going to have to probably make it just half, because there's going to be residents need to get into their properties. You want to stop?
No, keep going.
So residents need to get into their properties, and as you say, service vehicles too. So I would say half the road, and only residents who live in the street can get into their own properties. I don't know how to organise that, but that's just a way of getting around that. The point is we need less cars on the road. We don't need so many. People are choosing to use their cars rather than having to use them. It would be great if we all chose to use another form of transport. You know, like for 1/3% of the time we're on the road, if we chose to use another form of transport, only use our car when we need to.
Okay, and last question, Councillor Paula.
Thank you, and sorry about that, I turned it up in the break. Priorities, but given that you've agreed that we can't get to that place in short measure, we've got to... So what are your priority areas for pedestrian in the city?
My priority is to link up the things we have at the moment. So wherever we've got a great beginning, and I really appreciate that council's spent so much time and effort into trying to get cycleways better. Just linking up would be it. So look for the best option to shut down a road that links a really good already existing cycleway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Samantha Samuel.
Good morning.
You have 4 minutes. The time will be on the bottom right-hand corner. I'll let you introduce yourselves, and the 4 minutes includes question time, so just start when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Samuel. This is my support person here, Kylie Wright. My submission this morning is to focus on the proposed rates affecting my property that contains 3 bedrooms at Unit 2, 181 Knighton Road. I'm the chairperson of the body corporate that contains 6 units. Although my submission today reflects my unit, the thoughts shared here are also shared by the rest of the owners, and I understand they too have sent individual submissions. The recent letter I received from Hamilton City Council indicated the proposed rate would increase by an average of 9.5%. However, for my unit, if the proposed rates go ahead, this will mean my rates will increase from 1,486 1,242, an increase of 120% in the first year, with further increases over the next few years. For a unit that is approximately 115 square metres, I feel the increase is enormously high. The substantial increase is due to the inclusion of the $500 uniform general charge that is charged on separately used or inhabited part of a rating unit. The issue I would like to raise with Council is the definition of separately used or inhabited part. For a residential property to be classified as having an additional SUIP, each part must have a separate bathroom, bedroom or living area and separate sink. I would argue a bedroom with an ensuite and a bench with a sink does not constitute a separately used or inhabited part of a rating unit. The impact on council facilities would be exactly the same for a 3-bedroom home with 1 bathroom, as it would for a 3-bedroom home with 3 bathrooms. It is the amount of people using the facilities. To be separately used and inhabited part, I suggest the tenant or person residing must have private enjoyment of both cooking and washing facilities. In the case of my unit, because there is a separate ensuite and sink, I'm being charged 3 times the uniform annual general charge. However, I do not feel that this is fair by this definition, as the unit has communal living, kitchen area, laundry area, no different to a 3-bedroom house, and hence charging 3 times over, I am paying rates 3 times over, which I feel is very unfair. It is also hugely unfair to burden today's ratepayers with such an enormous increase without time to budget. I'm referring to the 100% increase in 1 year only. These rates increase will be followed by rent increases and make the viability of building, purchasing these properties not worth the investment. This will eventually result in the loss of available housing, which will increase homelessness among the more vulnerable, and those lucky enough to have accommodation will find rents increasing dramatically. For all the reasons outlined above, I do not agree with the inclusion of the separately used and inhabited part, as it is double dipping, as rates are already heading to a capital-based rates as opposed to the current land value. I'm requesting the Council to review the current guidelines and definition of the separately used or inhabited part to remove the separate bathroom and separate sink, as it is currently doubling and tripling the charge, which is unfair. I would like the Council to review the proposed rates for Unit 2, 181 Knighton Road, to exclude the separately used or inhabited part charge, as it uses the same facilities, no different to a 3-bedroom house, with respect to impact on council services. Thank you.
Councillor Gary.
Thank you, Samantha. Excuse me.
Sorry, Paul. Just to be clear, you're suggesting that because this is residential rentals, aren't they?
It is a residential
Yes, okay.
unit.
Just to be clear, so you will presumably have to not force it, but pass those increases onto through your rents somehow.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah. Either way, it will reduce the economics of your investment in that property, and therefore possibly risk development in rental property?
Possibly it will, but the issue really is the $500 charge and what is the reason for each room, just because they have a ensuite and a separate sink, that it should be charged $500 each of a unit, which is 24 square metres. And it's no different through a 3-bedroom house that has 1 bathroom but 3 people living in it.
Does it threaten the economics of your investment?
It would if I am going to charge on that cost to the tenant.
Thank you.
Last question, Deputy Mayor. We're out of time, so keep it short, please.
Very short. Just repeat the structure again. I'm sorry. You've got 3. You've 1 apartment, but 3 separate.
So I have 3 bedrooms in my unit.
Yeah.
And because my 3-bedroom has a separate sink for people to make coffees.
Yeah.
It's being charged $500 each as a separate separately used or independent part. Right. Even though the unit is like a house, it has kitchen facilities and a lounge suite and a lounge area, and a laundry area like a 3-bedroom house, being charged triple the amount because of the separate sink. I understand by your definition on the website.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. So the next submitter is Tang Sang Chung, who is on from 11:50, and he's presenting by not by video but by telephone. So we'll hand it over to you.
Okay, you're on microphone.
Okay. Hello everyone. Hello, greeting, morning. My name is Alex.
Yeah, hold on for a moment. We've just got some technical difficulties. It was working this morning. Can you just say hello again?
Yes. Hello.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, go again.
Okay. Can everyone hear me now? Yes. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Lovely morning to everyone. Good morning, Alex from OmniTech Limited. Received the council, Hamilton Council, the rent proposing increase. Well, the main concern to me is because we own 3 shops in Hamilton, one in the Centre Place and one the base and another one in Chartville. So it was a big surprise or big burden for me to accept the increasement for your rent, which is 9.5%, something like that, and in the coming year. The main thing is the business in Hamilton is significantly low production compared to what we can get from Tauranga region, Wellington, Christchurch, and Auckland. And the rent and the rent is pretty high in Hamilton. So if the council would like to increase the percentage that you propose, it's going to be a big impact to my whole residential. Especially the newly opened Chartview branch, which is not even, we account across to any even point. And we are still struggling to build that out to our break-even point, and we're still working on that. So apart from that, the center place is again the part for us, which is among all our branch or all our shops across New Zealand. That branch is the lowest sales ever. Pretty much is we are hardly achieving any profit from that shop. So good thing is we are still lucky we have the base that we are making profit on. But the concern to me is if we only have one shop making profit and two shops is not even making break even, and then we have the increasement of your rent over the next 2 years, then it's really going to big impact to us. I don't really reject the proposal of your your capital rating over the 10 years, which is we're paying over the 10 years. But if you want us to pay immediately within the 2 years, which is, I don't think is good enough for businesses like us. And how to survive by that kind of change?
Okay.
If you are
Sorry, your time's up now.
Just wrap it up. 1 minute to wrap
So,
up.
would you like to wrap up quickly?
Yes. Just want to, in conclusion, that I would like to council to know that there is a hard time for us as businesses to accept the increasement of your rent within this period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. The councillors appreciate that. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep, just sit down. Okay, who are you representing?
The Riverside Public Art Trust and Pub Working Group.
Okay, so you have 9 minutes. The clock will be set here on the bottom right-hand corner. Don't start until you're ready. Just prepare yourself. The clock won't start until you're organised. I know you've just walked in. The 9 minute includes question time.
Good morning. So my name's Mark Servian. This is Antonis Pursuta. We're here to represent the Riverside Public Art Trust and the Embassy Park working group that it covers. We have submitted on 3 subjects, but first of all, just to remind you who we are, we came together as a result of work on Embassy Park from 2013 onwards, a process that the council itself initiated. We formed and have done a bunch of work down at the park, as you know, rebuilt the park around the riffraff statue. We haven't finished. We have ongoing works that we wanted to do. However, our sort of physical progress in the last year has somewhat stalled because of the obvious questions around both sites on either side of the park. We, however, are keen to continue and still have more to do. I want to emphasise that our works to date have been funded by the Parry's Charitable Trust, Well Energy, Foster Maintain and Power Architects, all of whom sponsored our efforts in the expectation that they were funding something that was going to last a few years. And yeah, so we are very much of the view that we are still at work. We therefore offer views on the two sites either side of us, and also Garden Place, given its similarity to Embassy Park as a project. With the theatre, look, our group has a variety of views, as does the community. We're not offering, we think that the Charcoal Blue and Momentum have followed their process. You folks are following your process. We don't offer a strong view either way on the site. Obviously, it's a bit of a hassle that it's beamed down next to us in terms of slowing us down, but that's not our concern. Our main concern is that the reputation of Hamilton requires that this be an amazing building, that regardless of where you put it, that the most important thing is that it is incredible, and that therefore you need to put more money in. You may not be hearing this from many submitters today, but we actually believe that the theatre needs to have a large council input in order for the public to have a decent say in its operation ahead and to get it through. So we are very much in favour of the council increasing its commitment to the theatre. We are not so keen on the Central City Park. We believe that it is not a good return on investment, that the development of that area, the private landowners in that area like to develop it anyway and turn it towards the river. We believe laneways developing through that space would be just as effective. The great thing about Victoria and the river is that it does connect to the river, but with no intention to remove the apartments. Essentially, you're not going to get any more connection to the river by expanding the size of the park. And so we are very much in favour of you not doing the park and taking any money that frees up and putting it into the theatre. Simple, really. We've done the maths for you. The last thing we just want to talk about is Garden Place. This is a significant public space. It is the centre of the city. We think the council needs to be leading that process. In fact, you have an obligation to lead. It needs to have a proper process. In our own case, you guys started our process. We've been following a process that started with the community. We came together as community members who were interested in seeing it happen, and we've worked on Embassy Park incrementally. We think that approach is one you should consider for Garden Place. Open it up to the community and involve as many people as possible in that process, and do it incrementally rather than as one big bang. And you'll get, and that will solve the issues of Garden Place in terms of community buy-in, because that's what you want, is community buy-in. Well, get community buy-in from the outset rather than getting business to build something and then hoping to feel like it's theirs as well. That's all we have to say. It's all in written form. You have it as well. Thank you for your attention.
Can I add one? Do I press this?
Yep.
I just want to re-emphasise one point that Mark made, and that's about the quality of the theatre. I'm very aware as an architect that Hamilton has been a place full of compromises. We compromise what we do in terms of architecture and placemaking. Hamilton's got a reputation, and I think we have to make sure that this regional theatre, if it proceeds, is the best it can be. Thank you.
Councillor Mark.
Thank you. So by contributing more to the theatre, are you suggesting we have a larger share in the theatre, or it's a larger theatre? Or it's a larger
share in the theatre.
Right. So what difference would that make to the quality of the amazing building?
Well, I mean, I guess we're not as optimistic as some would be that the money will all come from the private sector. Right. I mean, the project as it's proposed at the moment is a pretty good theatre. I mean, that's the thing. It's just that the process, inevitably these process compromises get made. And it would be a pity if you committed a sum of money and then through the process of developing it, compromises were made. Whereas if you put more money in, the less likely compromises will be made in that process.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Siggy.
For your submission. Just a question, if the theatre goes ahead where it's now proposed,
yep,
and it's next to Embassy Park, will that have a huge, big impact on the park? Or you're happy with the impact?
It will have a huge impact insofar as this. Well, we've been talking to Momentum and to Charcoal Blue. They have talked to us. The fact of the matter is the plan as it stands means that everything we've done in recent times, except for the statue, would get taken away. However, they are committed to the idea of continuing to have a Rocky Horror theming in that space. There's obviously a challenge around Richard O'Brien's attitude towards that. But in terms of actually continuing the theming, reusing, you know, the gargoyles, creative elements, even if the toilets go, keeping the chandelier, putting new murals in. I mean, we're up for Embassy Park 2.0, but we don't want to see it disappear.
Can I add to that again? I think there's a wonderful synergy probably between the regional theatre and Richard O'Brien and the Rocky Horror Picture Show now. theatre in Hamilton and what's been created here. So I think it's a really positive thing, personally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Dave.
Are you happy that the amazing build for the theatre that you're envisaging can include the heritage elements of the Hamilton Hotel that have been talked about? Is that going to be amazing enough to have that as part of it still?
As I say, we haven't really addressed the specifics of that site quite deliberately because we have a range of views in our own group. We just really couldn't reach consensus. So, no, I haven't got a view of that. Maybe you're the architect.
Yeah, so I do have a view. I think, and this is an architectural view, an urban design point of view, urban landscape. I think that the move to preserve the Hamilton Hotel is a really important thing, and I think that those two things can work alongside, the modern building and the Hamilton Hotel together. I think it's a great initiative, and it shows the preservation that we do require here in the city.
Thanks, Antanas.
Councillor Paula.
Back to your comments on Garden Place and the incremental improvements, would you, and going back to the public about what those incremental, that's what you're suggesting, we go back to the public and allow them to have a look at what incremental improvements could be made? Is that what you're suggesting? And would that be based on things that already exist, like elements of the Central City Revitalisation Plan or Libraries Plan or whatever? Would you be wanting to pool all of those plans and have people, because those were consulted on, weren't they?
That makes sense. I mean, with Embassy Park, we've worked with what was essentially and added to it, taken some things away and added some things in, but we haven't gone for the big bang, clean slate approach, and we think what we've done has worked.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Mark and Tanis. Just interested in your view on Central City Park, and given that Victoria on the River, a lot of people feel it has opened up Victoria Street to the river. I'm just interested in your views that you don't see any value in any sort of extension there in terms of opening up the river. And you talk about laneways, but I struggle to see how you get the same impact.
So I think the additional marginal value is quite small compared to what's already there. So you can expand it bit by bit or a whole lot, and I don't think you're going to greatly enhance what's already been achieved. As Mark was saying before, as we've seen in our submission, I think the private developers who already own property owners will actually develop it in their own to their own needs, and they'll do it to address the river. That's a very sensible thing to do for a developer, and there is the opportunity for a laneway down the back if people choose to do that in the future.
They would probably do it in a different way, though, wouldn't they? The developers. I mean,
yeah,
you wouldn't have open space. Probably you'd have more buildings there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would imagine an intimate sort of space.
I emphasise that the apartments being there, if you look at the space, if you stand at the bottom of Victoria and the River, the only thing at the bottom end between Victoria and the River and the Embassy Park is the apartments. So if you clear all the buildings up on the street, you don't get more connection to the river.
Well, that's your view, yeah.
Yeah.
Last question, Councillor Gary.
Thanks for your presentation. Just to clarify what was said, Mark Servian came in and said, we want to make it wow, spend more money.
Yep.
Mark Bunting asked you, did that mean we would get more, the spend would go up, or that we would get bigger percentage of the ownership? And I think you said bigger percentage. Is that actually what you meant?
Yep.
Look,
because that doesn't get you what you talked about, making it bigger, which is spending more money on it.
We think, sorry, go on.
So the total spend would not go up if it was only us being a bigger percentage of the ownership.
So, Councillor, my view is this as an architect.
Funding, sorry.
My view is this, is that the budget that we've seen publicised, the $73 million, is probably not sufficient in due course. I think that the costs will go up.
That's what I wanted to know. Do you want to expand the budget, or do you want the council to have a bigger input to the existing budget? And is actually you want to expand the budget?
So my
or you
view
expect
is
it will need to be expanded?
If it needs to be expanded, then I think the council needs to be prepared to come to the party rather than trying to trim back the facility to meet the budget. That's my point.
Thank you. Do you agree with that, Mark?
Yep, I agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Right, thank you. Thanks, folks.
Nicolette's Broadnecks. Broadneck, sorry.
Anything that gets close, I'm grateful for.
You are presenting as an individual?
That's right, yeah.
4 minutes.
May I?
The clock's at the bottom right-hand corner, and the 4 minutes includes question time.
Okay, thank you. May I pass something around
Sure.
to councillors? No, it's not. I'm an artist, I'm a potter. Yeah, have a crack. I can't guarantee your teeth. I'm going to speak very, very quickly. I'm assuming you've had the opportunity to read my submissions, and I appreciate it because I appreciate there's been an awful lot of them. So I'm going to direct my oral submissions largely to my personal interest, which is art and pottery specifically. I didn't see on the form that we got to fill in anything related to a suggestion I think you made. I'm sorry, I don't know the correct reference to a mayor, Your Honour.
No, just call me Mayor Andrew.
Sir. The one, Your Worship, thank you. One where you proposed, I believe, that the Arts Post Commission for rate-paying artists be reduced.
It was anybody inside the city boundary.
Thank you. The reason I'm very grateful for that is because it means that you're actually thinking of us as individuals. I'm going to argue very, very strongly for could we please stop borrowing to pay bills. There was a very emotive article that actually compelled me to submit because I agree with the council's position, and I think a lot of people who agree with the council's position don't submit because they assume that's what's going to happen and we're quiet. This was an article in one of the local chip wrappers where a lady who was struggling and had a very genuine story of struggle was quite hysterically worried about rates increases. She then ended saying that she had no suggestions, she had no silver bullet, and that was your job. Now, this land that a lot of people live in, this Hamilton version of La La Land, thank you, Hamilton version of La La Land, where we can just borrow to pay for essentials, and yet we all want bigger libraries, nicer footpaths. That would be lovely. We'll all come in here and we'll advocate for our little piece that we want our pet. But ultimately, the woman was right. It's your job, and there is no silver bullet, and acknowledging the desperate worry she had about her rates increase. Why, when the cost of everything you have to pay for is going up, and you only have one serious source of income, why would you do what no prudent householder would ever do? What behaviours that launched us into a world financial crisis to go on the credit card? It's irresponsible, it's against your mandate, and I applaud the council for grabbing the thorn and actually realising if we have to do it, we have to pay for it. So I supported option 6, but I simply cannot see any option that people are advocating for where rates do not increase to support the spend that must be done. So what that boils down to is, are we spending our discretionary money wisely and not, in my opinion, and I really support the position you're in, any option that throws its toys out of the cot and says that they refuse to participate in this democratic process because Hamilton La La Land is somewhere where they can have everything that they want and not pay for it. The hysterical article, which wasn't a news article, it was an opinion piece with a little parenthesis of journalistic twaddle either side, really did speak the truth in the final paragraphs. She doesn't have a silver bullet. It is your job, and it's a hard one. And you're not going to make a popular decision, but we've got to actually spend within our means. The pieces that I passed around are a crystalline glaze that I have been developing. I price them up to $400 a piece. The way the current system is placed, I would probably get about $25 if someone paid that. The fact of the matter is, any small amount that would allow artists to develop, to concentrate on quality, to create their product, and not be working for somewhere around $2.50 an hour is a socially responsible move, which I would applaud. I would say that I acknowledge that everything I say in terms of please source responsibility, look at your pricing for artists, allow us to, making a living is ridiculous, we won't, but at least look at quality and what we can contribute to the uniqueness of Hamilton. I appreciate that everything I say in the pieces that I'm developing is going to go against my quite passionate submission that we live within our means, because every bit of income that you don't get from me, you have to find somewhere else. But I appreciate that you're thinking of us as individuals and ethically sourcing what is effectively never even going to reach minimum wage, because in those little bits of what makes Hamilton really special, the individual voice often comes through the artists. So thank you.
Thank you.
How am I going for time?
We're over, so there'll be no questions, but thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Catherine Billings.
Good morning, or good afternoon.
Hi Catherine, there's no rush to get started. You're presenting as an individual, you have 4 minutes.
Yeah.
The time's on the bottom right hand corner of the board and that includes questions.
Yeah.
And the clock won't start until you're organised and ready.
I'm ready. I'm going to talk about spending money, and it's to challenge 3, improving Hamilton transport system, simply because there's someone who's in a wheelchair. There are a lot of, there are a lot of issues daily that I face in a wheelchair. I would like to see bus shelters at all bus stops, simply because my chair can't take rain. So if I get caught in rain, I need shelter at a bus stop. Bus stop needs to have room. We have some bus stops that are placed over the concrete, the grass verge. This doesn't give me enough room to back and to allow me to give enough space to get on the ramp when the ramp is put down for a bus. Also coming off the, I sometimes feel like I'm going to run into the back of a bus stop. It would be better placed over a footpath with concrete or tar seal covering that grass verge, because grass verges and wheelchairs don't mix. It means that I have wet wheels getting on a bus. Then when I'm placing my chair to sit on a bus, I can't rotate into space because I've got no traction. It also means that I have just about slid off a ramp because of those wet wheels. And also coming off a bus, if I'm hitting a grass bridge, I can get stuck, and that has happened. It makes it tricky getting off. And the bus drivers are great because they do move along to a drive for me to get off, but they shouldn't have to do that, and I shouldn't have to struggle getting in and off the bus. I would support more taxis in Hamilton that are more wheelchair friendly, not just the 3 that are currently in Hamilton. There are 2 with one company and 1 with another, and it's a van. So I have to get in and off a van on a hoist at the back of a van. It would be easier if I could come out of a van or a car onto a footpath. So I would encourage you guys to, encourage taxi companies to look at a variety of vehicles, not just the vans that they have. I also have to book a van. If I was walking, I could just ring up and ask for a taxi. I have to book 24 hours in advance to get a van, simply because there's not enough vans. And sometimes those vans don't turn up, which puts my plans out and can be a little frustrating, even though I have booked them. And I'd like to be able to think, oh, I'll go off and do something, and to be able to ring for a taxi and one turn up. My next bugbear is intersections. When I'm crossing at intersections, some of the slopes going towards the gutters, I'm getting stuck. I know I can go at certain angles, but A, those crossings don't give you that long to cross, and I don't like being stuck. For example, the corner of Garnet Ave and Story Ave, it comes down a hill, but it comes down too steep that I can't cross at. So I'm having to cross at a driveway and trying to see traffic coming around from Garnet Ave so that I can safely cross. Also on the corner of Victoria Street and Little Bryce Street, I know it's an old intersection, but the lights that they used to have on the intersections would make it a lot easier to cross at those sections. It would be easier too, maybe if they were more flattened out to get across the gutters. And my biggest bugbear is footpaths and developers and contractors building new houses out in the suburbs and not providing an alternative route for someone in a wheelchair or a scooter or a pram like they're meant to. They park on the grass, they park on the footpath, and I'm being forced out onto the road facing traffic, and sometimes that's just not safe to do. And sometimes we know that when they're developing, they break up the footpath on the drive. That also makes it difficult cross a footpath. And I see in Hamilton and around the office buildings that are being developed lately that they provide an alternative route so that people aren't out on roads. And I'd like to see that happening in the suburbs.
So we're out of time, but
Yeah.
I'll just let you conclude and wrap up if there's any more pressing or
yeah.
important issues for you.
In conclusion, I'd like to see those who develop the city roads to get out from behind their desk, to try some of these things in a wheelchair, just so that they can see the life that I lead, getting on and off buses, being able to get a taxi, crossing roads, because really you don't know what it's like until you live it. Thank you.
Councillor.
Quick question. I know our General Manager of Infrastructure was listening closely to those last bits, which were really good. But have you worked with the CCS and Jerry Pomeroy, who's a transport advocate on the regional council to run the bus services?
Didn't know he existed.
Okay, we'll get that information to you because he's also saying the same things.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, Chris, just the grass issue with the heavy wheelchair, lining it up outside, so yeah. Great, thank you, Chris. All right, so one of our staff will be in touch with you immediately now, just to give you Jerry's contacts.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Thanks for coming in, thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Tanya Simpson. So Tanya, you're an individual submitter?
Yes, I am.
So you have 4 minutes on the bottom right-hand corner of the board. The clock won't start until you're ready. and that includes questions. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm just going to introduce myself first of all, but before I do, thank you for allowing us to actually come and submit. This is a first for myself. So my name's Tania Simpson. I'm a local resident at Rototuna. I've lived in Hamilton 3 years, and I currently in the gardens, at the Hamilton Gardens through the summer months, and also run a business called Curbside Cuisine, where I work with 90 food trucks throughout the Waikato Bay of Plenty. The two issues that I wanted to address today were, first of all, Rototuna. While I love it, and I'm probably more of an advocate than I would be for Hamilton, it's taken 9 years. I've only lived here for the 3 years. In Rototuna, I'd really like to see the community actually get together and have a place to do that. The community engagement would definitely be something I think would outweigh the cost. I struggle with my teenagers hanging out at McDonald's. I struggle with McDonald's cups in my kitchen. And that's pretty much the only place I see for teens of 15, and I have 4 of them, where they can just go and hang with their friends, unless they're in my lounge. So I'm a big advocate for the hub. I'd love to see that work. I'm keen to create and have been in contact with Rototuna High about how we can create a community market, because what I have seen at Gourmet in the Gardens is when you lift the community engagement, you lift the pride. And I think Hamilton is probably one of the biggest ones. I'm probably more of an advocate than most people that have lived in Hamilton for a long time. So I think that's probably one of your biggest challenges, Andrew, is how do we engage the community so they are advocates for Hamilton. The second one would have to be about Garden Place, and from what I know in 3 years, Garden Place, I've run events in Garden Place, it's a hard grind. It's not an easy decision. There's a lot of people that don't want you to invest anymore. I'd like us to use a little bit of a different tact where we invite events, and I have worked with Chris Wilkinson, who runs Retail NZ in Wellington, who works with councils on how to reinvigorate city spaces. And as much as I dare to say, the food truck following is something that actually brings vibrancy, excitement and people. So while they don't always get off the couch and come and buy from their same old opportunity, they will get off the couch and come and check out what's on offer for a pop-up. I've seen it time and time again. I see it in Auckland. Food trucks is my passion. Why? Because they're small businesses and I love to help them. So I'm all about finding opportunity for these guys to operate. So those are the two things that I wanted to bring to the table and just say, surely with $3.2 million we could do a few more events in Garden Place and try something a little bit different with people that are quite keen to make that happen. And hold off on the spend. There are some small things that need to change to make it more viable, like getting rid of the noodle would have to be my bugbear. Just because it makes it totally unsafe when you've got lots of people in that space. But I don't really think 3.2 million is justified for something that's going to be filled with the same people and not much vibe. So I'm all about the vibe. Oh, 35 seconds.
Councillor Ryan.
In your online submission, there was some stuff redacted, and it doesn't make sense to me. Perhaps you could fill in the blanks. Curbside Cuisine is run by founder of.
Yeah, I looked at that myself, and I'm going, I'm not sure what that's about. But Curbside's run by myself. It's a business that I have started in the last 6 months, and I currently have food trucks located at Whara at the Village Cafe to eliminate road carnage because it's just before the natural fatigue stop. So Curbside's all about getting anybody in a mobile caravan
Sorry,
out.
founder of what was it the founder of?
Probably Gourmet in the Gardens, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't recall, because even when I looked at that was very late at night. I was encouraged to...
Thank you. No, that's cool.
Councillor Gary.
Thanks, Tanya. You said it's a struggle to get people into Garden Place. Is that a failure, or is it just that people have got other things better to do? There are other attractions in the city that are drawing people's attention rather than coming into Garden Place. Why do you think that's a failure?
From my experience, it's even if I put food trucks, which I've tried, on a Friday night, we don't see any of the council people leave the building. So they don't actually transition through Garden Place. What I can give you is an example of the city burn where I've worked with classic events, and we
Sorry,
added
the city what?
City Burn, which is part of the balloons over Waikato.
Oh, yeah.
So where the baskets come in. This particular event was struggling because no vendors or none of the actual people would stay open to serve food or beverage. So we added food trucks, and from that point on, it's doubled from what classic events have told me in regards to crowd attendance and just catering for the family. So it's a free event where they can come along and buy food, but if you want to buy food, then the option is there, and that's what's made it much stronger. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Thank you,
That's
Gary.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Appreciate you coming in. Rawi? Rawini, sorry. Rawiri, sorry. Sorry, he's not on your list.
Sorry, just to clarify, he was on at 4 o'clock today, I think, but he was in the building, so we've taken the opportunity to take him now.
4:25 on your list, councillors.
Yes. So you have 4 minutes. Your time's at the bottom right of the screen. That includes questions.
4 minutes to go. Okay then. All right.
4 minutes is here.
I see. I don't think I'll take that long, but thank you very much for fitting me in this morning rather than this afternoon. I'd have to go home and come back again, which I was expected to do, but thank you for that. Yes, I wrote a submission into the council's 10-year plan, and the main two issues that I've got on the plan are these. Firstly, you look through the plan, and particularly the numbers, you don't see anything in there showing a commitment by the council over the next 10 years to anything Māori. And yet, Māori are something like 20% of the population. They're large ratepayers, they're individuals, and they have aspirations and desires and wants. And so we asked the question that maybe the council should have been able to, or should have done more for that area of the plan. And I'm talking about, if you look at the finances, you're looking at the last item on the finances of 33 million, covering Māori and the governance and operations for the next 10 years, which is only 1% of the total 2 billion budget that you were proposing to expend. And I asked the question, hey, that can't be right. And so I would implore, even plead to the council, why is that so? And probably because of there's been little in the way of encouraging a Māori input into the planning stages of the council's operations and future aspirations. Hopefully that can get better in the future, but if they could put some aside in terms of this plan to make that happen, so that in the next 3-year plan or the next 10-year plan, there is some consideration for that issue. And for me, just quietly, it doesn't say much for the council's commitment too. The next issue, the main issue that I've got, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, is around the projects which you propose to undertake if you were to get the approval through this process, and that is the project which I am particularly interested in, and is the Riverside management plans. Now, as I stated in my submission in 2003, we wrote a document for the council, half by the council and half by us, identifying all these estates of reserves along the riverside, and all of that. And you guessed it, where the idea come from? We could turn the city around. So hey, 20 years later, we're still looking at it, and it's good to see that you're starting it. But if we were able to get into some of those projects along the city, along the riverside, that would help tremendously not only attracting tourists and all the rest for people, aesthetic, etc., but also to turn the city around. So, and I'll offer you a suggestion as to how that might be done. And I don't know if we're going to need to do any more in the gardens because we've done enough there. I'm not sure whether any more tourists are going to come along because we're going to have another garden in there. These Riverside projects, reserves, popo, artworks, whatever, would be a draw for your money. So with those two issues with the Chair, I just put them on the table for your consideration. Cheers.
Okay. Thank you very much for your submission. We're out of time for questions. So.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come in. Yeah. Go home now.
Margaret Deman. Welcome.
Thank you.
You have 4 minutes. The clock's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The clock won't start until you're ready, and the 4 minutes includes questions.
I thought I had 10 minutes.
Who is? Sorry, who?
She's an organisation.
Sorry, apologies. Yes, you do have 9 minutes.
Oh,
okay,
excellent.
so the 9 minutes will be on the top.
But I thought I
so we start low and then we build up.
Okay.
It's a negotiation. So.
Oh, well, I'm in a good place then. No, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Margaret Deman. I'm the National Property Manager for Farmers. I'm actually here, however, representing the whole James Pascoe Group. The James Pascoe Group are a privately owned retail company who manage a number of different retail brands. We've got Farmers, Pascoes, Stevens, Stuart Dawson's and Whitcoulls within the Hamilton region, and predominantly located in shopping centres. So you'll see us across the road at Centre Place, see us at Chartwell and see us at the base. And under the leases we have for those stores, we pay the landlord rent, we also pay the landlord operating expenses, and then we also pay rates, and the rates are typically charged on a per square metre rate relative to our store, relative to the size of the centre. Just to also, I guess, further set the scene for the James Pascoe Group is just to note that we employ over 300 people within the Hamilton area within our stores, and each of those 300 people have families and commitments within the region. So I think we take our responsibilities both as an employer and as a retailer within Hamilton very seriously. The James Pascoe Group supports a number of charities within the Hamilton region, particularly Blood and Leukemia Foundation, Salvation Army, Hospice and Women's Refuge. And a lot of these supports and charity works actually fly under the radar, but it's very active. For each store has very active charity responsibilities. Recently, our landlords obviously contacted us to advise us of the proposed rates changes, and what they've told us is that we can expect a change in rates of between 70 and 139% in the next financial year. And that obviously was quite stunning for us. We knew about the change in 2015 to the capital value rating system, and we were very confident that over a 10-year period we'd be able to tweak our store budgets every year so that the change to a full capital rating regime could be absorbed within our store budgets. The current proposal, however, to go immediately, effectively in year 3, to the full capital rating system, plus the 9.5% increase in rates, will, I guess, sheet a very large burden home to retailers. Within our stores, each store succeeds or fails on its own merits. We don't cross-subsidise stores, and if a store is contributing negatively, that is, its sales don't meet all its various expenses, I guess really critical and important decisions are made about that store's future within our current network. And one of the things that we are particularly worried about if the rating changes do come in, and it's not actually even for our store network, It's actually looking around Hamilton at some of the smaller retailers who actually won't be able to absorb those rating increases and will have no alternative but to shut their doors. And every shut is a lost opportunity for Hamilton residents and for customers and for shoppers. And a shopping centre has a critical mass, it has a vibrancy, and people, customers, shoppers, they go there because A, they can maybe buy something, they can have a meal, and they see other people, so it's a real sort of marketplace. And every shut door basically screams, this actually doesn't work for us, this is a failure, and it's not having the vibrancy and attractiveness. So as a retailer, we're really concerned that around us, doors will start shutting, and that will lessen the opportunities for Hamilton people to actually have some recreation, to shop, to eat. The other thing that we've noticed particularly is that today's shoppers are they're very well educated. They can travel with their feet, they can travel with their cars or with their keyboard. And if the item they want is not available in their region, they'll go elsewhere, whether within New Zealand or overseas. And our real concern is that the vibrancy within the Hamilton retail market will over time contract, and I don't believe that will be very beneficial for Hamilton as a city going forward. The James Pascoe Group has been involved in retail in New Zealand for 100 years, and by all accounts I'd like to be around for another 100 years. But what that means is that as leases expire, if the rates increases come in, really, really hard decisions will be made around the future of the number of stores we have in the region. I think the message that I'd really like to deliver today is please go ahead with the capital value rating system, but please phase it in over the 10 years as initially planned. We can cope with that. The other thing is around the 9.5% rates increase. We would really like to see that pegged back to something around the 3.5%, which is something we've budgeted for and we can accommodate and we can work within. So that's what I'd like to say. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Margaret. Deputy Mayor Marsden.
Appreciate the significant investment. As a national New Zealand chain, bearing that Hamilton's only one of three who does land value, so if we look at, say, your operations in Tauranga or Greater Auckland, do you not pay those level of rates now? And I'm just trying to work, an apples with apples, because...
We do, however, what that level of rates is reflected in the level of rent that we then pay the landlord as well, because we look at a total operating cost model, which is what are we paying for rent, what are we paying for operating expenses, and what are we paying for rates. So that all goes into the mix. So in the Auckland, for example, in the Auckland market, our per square metre rental rates might be slightly lower to reflect the fact that our rates might be slightly higher.
So you negotiate that?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gary.
Thanks very much for your submission. You raised two issues there. One was who pays the rates, and that's the capital versus land value thing, who it gets. And the other was, towards the end, you said you didn't like the 9.5, would rather have 3.3 to 3.4, 3 to 4-ish. That's what I'm more interested in. What services or where can you see scope within the council budget where we could reduce expenditure, because that's what you're talking about, to achieve a dot 9.5 down to where you're talking 3 point something?
Well, I guess I would look first at sort of surplus assets, whether there are any assets that aren't required and then can perhaps be sold, or if it's land, whether there's some sort of development agreement that can be accessed in relation to that land and then that package sold to a developer. So I'd look, I guess, first at what's in the war chest, so to speak. And the other thing, I guess, is that all of us, whether it's a council or a business or a family, need to cut our cloth according to what we're getting. And it's wonderful to have aspirations, but sometimes those aspirations have to be tempered against the reality. And you know, we want all our stores to look, you know, like a brand new store, but we can't because, you know, we need to sort of invest capital. We can't do it sort of all on year one. So I think it is definitely a balancing act, and I appreciate it's a very difficult one, but it's faced across probably all of New Zealand, not just Hamilton.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mark.
Thank you. So just for clarity, you're not against the change to CV, but you're saying the sudden jump to CV is uneconomic.
That's correct, yeah. We knew, obviously, in 2015 about the move. We prepared for it as much as we can. We were prepared, you know, for the 10-year introduction, and the immediate introduction in year 3 has taken us very much by surprise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming up and sharing your group's business model to help us understand the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
It's a very good presentation. Sarah Gibbs. So Sarah, you're presenting for Community Waikato.
Yes, thank you.
You have 9 minutes. Your time's in the bottom right-hand corner, and that includes questions.
Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome.
So apologies from our CE Holly Snape, who's on holiday. I'm Sarah Gibb, and I'm a community advisor helping to strengthen community organisations in the social sector across the region. Community Waikato has a strong view on the position of the Council's community grant scheme, and it is that I will speak to today. A part of my role is to work alongside community groups in finding funding so that they can resource and deliver their services. For Hamilton City Council, I've sat on various forms of the Council's single-year grants allocation committee for the last 5 years. Community Waikato requests that you increase the current budget of $1.16 million for community grants by at least 10% with annual inflation adjustments. The current overall community grants budget has been the same for the last 3 years, and was similar prior to that. By leaving it at this amount, it is actually a decreasing budget as the population of Hamilton increases and the demands on services increase. Yesterday, I was in a meeting of the Waikato Plan Strategic Partners, where the Waikato Plan Community Program Manager, Rachel McMillan, presented on the newly released research report, Socio and Economic Deprivation in the Waikato region, using the Index of Multiple Deprivation. It is a data collection tool that measures 7 different domains: employment, income, crime, housing, health, education, and access. The report reflected that Hamilton features nationally, having the 2nd most deprived data zone in New Zealand for the income domain, and the 3rd most deprived data zone in New Zealand for health, out of 598 data zones that the country is broken up into. By increasing the grants budget, you'll be contributing to community organisations working in those areas to improve those statistics. This grant funding supports grassroots delivery of services. Hamilton has community organisations, whether an experienced community house or a small ethnic group supporting their cultural diversity, who are directly impacting families and contributing to the overall social well-being of Hamilton. Grant funding is a way that Council contributes to the community sector, providing opportunities for community-led initiatives, growing volunteerism, and enabling social outcomes through activity across the city, delivered by the experts, the community organisations themselves. That contribution to date is something to be proud of. Just this year, your single-year grants committee received 150 applications who were requesting $884,000 from a pool of 292,000. Multi-year grants had over 1.8 million requested for 850,000 available. Very oversubscribed, as are the other philanthropists for Hamilton. One impact of the multi-year grants was that groups who were not successful this time, but had been in the past, applied to the single-year grants. It immediately meant they went from seeking over 20,000, which they had received historically, and gave them 3-year security, to a fund where 8,000 is the maximum amount granted annually. The Hamilton City grants are part of a wider funding pool for community groups. It is rare for any one funder to fund a group of 100%, and so the council grants help leverage funds from other funders. For some of the smaller groups, though, The Hamilton grant will be the only grant they will need, as they can deliver on just a couple of $1,000s. The Council's criteria for funding consideration are to A, strengthen participation across diverse communities, B, build the capability of communities to become sustainable, and C, work collaboratively across the community sectors. So give community organisations the resourcing to do just that, so that they, alongside Council, can build a city we want to live in. 10 years ago, the budget for grants was $10 per resident. Currently, it's about $7.20. This is a downward trend that will continue if you can keep with status quo. Please move to increase the community grants budget by a minimum 10% and increasing annually in line with inflation. Thank you for your time.
Councillor.
Your presentation. Just a question, you said it fairly at the start, you said you would like to see the grants to go up by 10% every year, you meant?
As many years as you can do it for, thanks very much.
Do you think that's enough though, because we are way behind of some of the communities?
That was us trying to get in the room to have that discussion with you. Of course, personally, we'd love it to be a whole lot more, but we figured 10% was something you might be able to stomach for now.
Oh, great, thank you so much. Lovely.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you. That 10% was initial and then inflation. Yeah, that's.
Yes.
I missed, sorry, you talked about the deprivation index, the new information that you just got. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, we discussed this, but what was the other one? Health and?
Income.
Income.
Yeah.
So,
and that report has actually
just
just gone live today, Paula, on the Waikato Plan website.
On the Waikato Plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Great.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got Rovers Swim Club. Sorry, Rovers Football Club. We've got Simeon and Michelle?
Wendy.
Wendy.
Mike and Wendy.
Mike, sorry, Mike, Wendy. Mike, Wendy and Simeon?
Yes.
Thank you. So you have 9 minutes. The clock's on the bottom right-hand corner. It includes questions, so start when you're ready.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, kia ora, councillors and Mayor King. Firstly, thank you for your service to the community and Hamilton City Council, and thanks for meeting with us today. My name's Simeon Price. I'm a committee member of Claudelands Rovers Sports Club. Joining me is Michael Doré. He's the president of the club, and Wendy, who's the club secretary. Claudelands Rovers have been delivering sports to the Hamilton community for over 95 years, which is a long, proud history that we have. And we've been a long-term lessee of Galloway Park and ratepayer through the club rooms that we've built and funded ourselves. So we've shown good stewardship over the years with providing sports services to the community, and this is something that we're proud of and we wish to continue doing for the next 95 to 100 years. But we need some help. We provide sports, football being the main sports offering we provide to the community. We offer a full pathway from our juniors at 4 years of age right the way through to senior social and competitive sports teams that play in the Northern League competition in Auckland, and we host players here for that. We boast a very diverse group of members across the spectrum, from predominantly the Hamilton East area, but across Kirikiriroa as a whole, from all socioeconomic backgrounds and a lot of ethnicities as well. We are a melting pot, given football is the biggest sport in the world. Through the passion of our members, we've achieved a lot in the years. Like I said, we've built the club rooms. We've produced 27 past and current international players, which is quite phenomenal, coming from an amateur sports club. And so now we need your support and just a little bit of money to be spent on Galloway Park so we can continue to deliver for the next 95 years. So just, if you're not aware, Galloway Park, located in Hamilton East, is a shared sports facility between Claudelands Rovers and Hamilton Cricket. It's meant to be available for 48 weeks of the year. that just doesn't happen, just due to the poor drainage and field conditions as a whole. For example, in 2017, fields were closed 30% of the time, and that was just during winter. I know Hamilton Cricket experienced similar issues. This year alone, we've only had the fields open for 22% of the time. So we all know the importance of sports and recreation to the community, the importance of getting out and getting physical activity. So this has a huge impact on right the way through from our kids to our senior players, that they can't practice and they can't play their Saturday or Sunday games. That's a major factor, drainage. The other problem we currently have is that we're currently in breach to our governing body, which is for our premier men's and women's teams, is the Northern Regional Football Competition, that our football pitch, our #1 field, is under regulation size. We've skirted around this for a number of years, but now it's been laid down, it cannot continue. We risk losing the ability to be able to field teams, our top women's and men's teams, in that competition because of the field size. So it's an immediate thing that needs solving. The good news is that we, along with Hamilton Cricket and the Parks and Recreation, have been working collaboratively over a number of months now, and we do have a solution, and it's a simple solution, and I believe it's a cost-effective solution to deliver better outcomes for Hamilton Cricket and Claudelands Rovers and our combined members and the community. So that's the key focus, really. Drainage is the big problem we face for both codes and the general field quality, and then the need to move a cricket wicket to another park in Hamilton East, which Parks and Recreation have designated. Any questions?
Councillor Ryan.
Thanks, Simeon. I think you just answered it. So I was asking, what was the solution that you require? And that's already a work in progress, is it?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
Also, if I can just step in, basically the Parks and Recreation have put a proposal forward for the sports field improvement program, and we believe if there's financial support from the council for that, then that would assist Galloway Park, Claudelands Rovers, Hamilton Cricket, and other sporting facilities in the community as well.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, Hamilton Christmas Charitable Trust. So you're all welcome to come to the table, just bring chairs up as you see fit. So you have 9 minutes. The time's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And the 9 minutes includes question time. And just start when you're ready. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, councillors and Mayor King. Thank you for the opportunity to submit on the long-term plan on behalf of the Hamilton Christmas Charitable Trust. As you're aware, the Trust organises the annual Christmas parade and the lighting ceremony and concert for the Christmas tree that stands in Garden Place. These events are the largest Christmas events in the city. They help make Hamilton a great place to live, work and play. The Christmas parade and tree are not just about bringing people into the city. These events are about giving children from all socio-economic backgrounds the opportunity to experience some magic at Christmas. One of my favourite Christmas quotes is, "We miss something if we don't see Christmas through the child's eyes." For children, lights, they hear the music and they smell the fragrance of Christmas trees and candy canes with real anticipation. Unfortunately, there is now some uncertainty about the future of the Christmas parade and tree. The Trust's submission on Council's 10-year plan can be narrowed to 2 issues. The first issue relates to Garden Place. In particular, if the proposed redevelopment proceeds, will there be sufficient space in Garden Place for a concert? And also the other question is, if there is sufficient space, will there be additional health and safety concerns that would increase the costs of holding such an event? So that's 2 concerns on the Garden Place. The second issue is funding. The Trust understands that it is no longer able to apply to the Major Event Sponsorship Fund due to a change in Council's criteria. We have just received advice that Council has alternative funding options available. We would need confirmation of this, because essentially without funding support from Council, the Trust simply cannot run its events. As a mother of a young child, I think it would be a brave council that cancels Christmas. To quote Dr. Seuss, "In the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling, how could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes or bags, and he puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. The Grinch then thought of something he hadn't before. What if Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store? What if Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more?" The Trust Events Manager, Karen Watkins, a bit more comment on the funding aspects for the Trust.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm probably more familiar than even some of you sitting around this table, Council's processes and what it goes through over the years, and I certainly am pleased I'm sitting on this side and not your side. Just really to let you know that the Trust incurs costs to store our floats, to build and to hire in appropriate costs, our floats and costumes and performers for the Christmas parade. And everyone we know faces costs increases every year. It is a factual thing about life. So the Trust has managed the tree for most of its life. We've replaced the lighting with interactive lighting at a cost of over $100,000 2 years ago. And we're now replacing the branches over the next 2 years at an estimated cost of $90,000. Now, Council has not had to provide any money toward either of those costs. And yet it's interesting when I talk to people, I think you beggars are the ones that put them up. So thank you, Mark. So the Trust annually raises money from trusts which could lessen in future years, and through commercial sponsorship and a large amount of in-kind assistance and the goodwill of hundreds of volunteers. So continued support from Council is crucial to enable the Trust to fund its operational expenses and to hold its annual Christmas events. And John, did you want to have anything to add? John Gallagher is our patron of the Trust.
Well, thank you, councillors, and Your Worship the Mayor, Andrew. Really just, I guess, as a patron, supporting the organisation, because I see it as a very important part of the community, a partnership between council and the community, because of what the Trust is actually doing, actually making something happening for the children of our city. So I like to see that being able to continue on happening. And at the moment it seems to be somewhat under threat, and I'm concerned about that. Thank you.
Councillor Mark.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas in advance. The 4A, you talk about continued support for the Trust by making sufficient funding available for the tree. How's the tree? How is it? How old is it, and what sort of nick is it in?
The tree is over 10 years old now, and 2 years we were replacing lighting on a reasonably frequent basis. The lighting that we got when the tree was handed to us was not terribly good. Invested in new lighting, which is far more interactive. It gives an absolute brilliant display. It has meant that the views for us online and offline have soared from people seeing the tree. The branches now, if we put them up, we kind of gingerly put them on and cross our fingers and hope. Right. So what we're doing is we're doing a 2-year planned replacement. Okay. And so the tree during the day will look a little bit different because the branches that we're going for are far more robust. They've got a much longer term. Okay. The frame of the tree remains in good condition. Anything that does become dodgy with it, we repair it. So for all intents and purposes, you've got another 10 years for a tree, and there is no other like it in New Zealand still.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. And also, I just want to thank you for what you do of Hamilton. You do it in an efficient way, and it's something that the council doesn't want to own. We couldn't do it in the way that you do it, and we just really do want to thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of the city, and I'm sure on behalf of the councillors, joy you do bring each Christmas. Okay, we'll now adjourn for lunch. We'll be back here at 2 o'clock. Can I just remind members that there is the ADARE presentation in Committee Room 1 during the lunch break. So it'd be good if each of us popped in there sometime over the next hour. Thank you. I presume it's a display or a question answer session. No. No.
Don't believe so.
I don't know if it's CU swap over.